Okay, assalamu alaikum. Hope you are well. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. All right, let's see who we have. Already saw Iron Man in the chat. Hope you're well. Good to see you. And so 607. I need to know who this is. I actually seen some names here. And Muhammad, who says, Salam Khalid, I think you might go for a hat trick by getting one traditional Muslims, two the no-ritual Quranists, and three those who are Quranists Salat, all upset. Maybe. Now, I do remember from last stream, somebody was mentioning that there's some controversy going on now. I don't know if it's finished. It was back then anyway. 2 weeks ago regarding Salah, and there was like some hot-blooded or spirited debate between Quranists about it. But as in why I am doing the stream now, it's really got nothing to do with that. It's going to be actually mostly for the sort of like the non-initiated, for non-Quranists, so to speak. A video that I can sort of point to when that question comes up a lot, right? How do you pray about hadiths, right? That question comes up over and over and over again. And, this is stream number, it was going to be stream number 101. So, number 101, I thought let's make it about this topic, okay? So let's get into this without further ado. Prayer, from what I understand, is supposed to protect yourself from bad actions and decency. The reminder keeps one away from that and reminds us of what that could do. That is true. But anyway, let me get on with what I want to talk about. So, Salat or prayer in the Qur'an, the recurring question. How do you pray with hadiths, right? That's one of the first questions. Anybody who says they reject all hadiths or they take their religion primarily or only from the Quran, they get asked this question. So how do you pray? Which tells you a lot about how somebody thinks of religion, right? They think of it in terms of salah. And this goes into a little bit on the sort of deen stream videos which I did, where the whole of somebody's religion is thought of in terms of their deen, in terms of their prayer, and a little bit for women as well, to be honest, in terms of their dress, right? A religious woman is the one who is wearing a hijab. A religious sort of man is the one who prays 5 times a day. Almost seems to be that kind of thing, right? Whereas Salah is just a ritual. Now, just to say from the beginning, to get this over with, I am going to be talking about Salah as a given here, that it's a ritual, okay? That it's something that you do, an actual physical ritual that you do. So just to be clear about that, I'm not going to be debating that part of it or anything about that part of it. I'm sort of just taking it as given. The Salah is Salah as we know it, okay? As all cultures would understand something which is a prayer, right? A ritual prayer, okay? So let's just get into the first quick notes for those uninitiated. The first thing with regards to that question, how do you pray without hadiths, is first of all, nobody learns how to pray from hadiths, right? That never happens, right? Everybody who's learned how to pray the traditional prayer, they learned it from their parents, they learned it from the people who got them to convert, they learned it from watching others in the mosque, they learned it from prayer manuals. You never get it from hadiths. There is no hadiths which teach you how to pray, okay? Hadiths do not in fact describe how to pray, okay? It's the books of fiqh which do that, right? the books of fiqh are the ones which go into detail on how to pray, and even those need further explanations, right? Because the earlier books of fiqh, they also assumed things, right? The hadiths which are collected, they pretty much already assume you know the general format of salah, okay? Which comes into the third point. Hadiths are only used really to argue and bicker with regards to unimportant aspects of salah, right? The hadiths don't teach you how to pray, right? There is no single hadith which even comes close to describing a full prayer, not one, okay? What you have to do is create an incomplete patchwork from various hadiths. Take this hadith over here and this hadith from over there, one here from Bukhari, one here from there, from maybe collectors who lived in different parts of the world, right? One from Imam Ahmad, one from Bukhari and Bukhara, one from different places, right? And you put these hadiths together and you try to come up with a picture of how the Prophet prayed, and you might not even get a picture which the Prophet had in terms of all those pieces being together at the same time, okay? Because maybe he prayed a little bit differently at different times, right? And so who's to tell you that the Prophet ever put those pieces together in that kind of way that you're getting from hadiths, right? And of course, the last thing, just again to reiterate this, that you can't learn how to pray from hadiths. If you were to give somebody who has never seen a Muslim prayer, okay, never seen, has no concept of how Muslims pray, and you give them all of the hadiths, all of the Sahih hadiths about prayer, they would not be able to recreate the traditional salah. They just can't, okay? The information is not there in the hadiths. It's just not there, okay? Again, because the narrators of hadith already assume that everybody knows how to pray. All they are narrating is little details, this detail or this detail, okay? Little things that you know they were squabbling about. They were squabbling about unimportant things, right? So that's what hadiths are when it comes to salah, right? Mostly unimportant things, and the most important things which are in hadiths about salah, they are neglected, right? So those hadiths are considered to be weak, right? And you've got an abundance of hadiths which use salah to help stabilize the authority of the rulers, right? So you've got the hadiths which are about praying in the mosque, and you must pray in the mosque. All of those hadiths were all about the rulers trying to keep an eye on any opposition, right? So everybody was forced to pray in the mosque, right? And you have those hadiths of the Prophet apparently saying, that I thought of telling having adhan called and then getting somebody to lead the salah and then go around with some people and burn the houses of those who don't come to the prayer. Okay, these were all hadiths trying to force people to come to the mosque to pray there during the times of the caliphs, in order for them to be aware of where everybody was, right? So you've got a lot of hadiths who are actually in that category as well. Okay, so think of it this way. This is another way to look at this whole issue, right? Being a Muslim via the Quran alone, right? If you ask a sectarian Muslim, if you can be a Muslim by only following the Quran, he will tell you no. Okay, which is of course kufr in the Quran. Quranic kufr in terms of ingratitude, and ingratitude to the one who sent it, right? But in the end, he is right, because what he is really saying is you can't be a Muslim according to my sect with only the Quran alone. Like you can't be a Sunni Muslim with the Quran alone. You can't be a Shia Muslim with the Quran alone. You can't be a Salafi Muslim with the Quran alone. That's true. Okay, you can't. Okay, you can't be a Muslim in the sight of your sect if you reject all hadiths, because it is via the acceptance of their hadiths that they preserve their sect. Okay, that's why they force you to accept them and tell you you're a kafir if you don't, because it's through the narrations they have in their sect that they tie you to their sect, that they differentiate themselves from other sects. Okay, and of course interpretations of those hadiths and interpretations of the interpretations, right? That all goes into that. But here's the question: can you be a Muslim in Allah's sight with nothing but the Quran? Undoubtedly, yes, right? If you have any regard for the Quran alone, right? If you have any regard for the Quran at all, any regard for the Quran at all, yes, you can be a Muslim in Allah's sight, in God's sight, using nothing but the Quran. Okay. In a similar way, can you pray the traditional prayer of the Quran alone? No, you can't. Okay, you can't get to the traditional salah through the Quran alone, right? You can't get to any how, to be honest, with the Quran alone, right? But can you have a salah which is acceptable and even greatly praiseworthy in the sight of Allah with the Quran alone? Yes, you can, right? And in fact, your traditional sectarian salah may end up being unacceptable to Allah, right? As might be your sectarian Islam. These might be unacceptable to Allah, right? But a salah that is in accordance with the Quran will undoubtedly be acceptable to Allah. Okay, just as an Islam in accordance with the Quran will also be acceptable to Allah. Okay. So the how of salah, right? The traditional how, as in how do you pray? You know, the form of the salah, the physical motions, what you do first and what you do next, which way you face, all of that, right? Is not in the salah, is not in the Quran. I mean, yes, the qibla is, right? The qibla is, but even then, it's not directly tied to salah. In speaking of that, right? But neither is any other how, right? And that isn't a gotcha, okay, for the traditional salah. Okay, it isn't something praiseworthy for the traditional salah that it isn't in the Quran, right? It isn't in the Quran because it was just, you know, that unimportant. Okay, it isn't in the Quran because Allah didn't want it to be in the Quran. It isn't in the Quran because it was better that it shouldn't be in the Quran. Okay, we have to take it in that kind of way, right? If you're going to look at the Quran as, you know, a miracle and, you know, Allah's words and complete and perfect, right, and all of that, then salah not being in there is the right way it should be. That's how it should be. It shouldn't be in there. There shouldn't be a how to pray in the Quran, right? Whether for the traditional salah or any other how, really, it's not in there. Okay. Now, in this point, the traditions will, you know, they'll come up and say, you know, or think or put forward the idea that the reason it isn't in the Quran is only to sort of like force you to take it from the messenger, right? That's the point. Okay, so is that true? Is the reason for that so that you know, it forces us to consult hadiths? Is that why the salah isn't described in the Quran, right? How to pray isn't described. So is Allah trying to force us to need hadiths, right? To later hadiths, to bicker about them and the traditional ways of salah, because they bicker among themselves which way is better. Okay, so that parts of it might be lost, as happened. You know, for example, there was a time where the takbir, you know, to say Allahu Akbar each, you know, upon each movement, that was lost in the salah. It wasn't there, right? If you read the hadiths which are in Muslim and Sahih Muslim and in others, large parts of the ummah on the outskirts, right, at the end of Muawiyah's rule, at the end of Uthman's rule, they didn't know how to pray the traditional prayer. Okay, they'd forgotten to say Allahu Akbar, you know, when they go down to bow, and when we get up from bowing, or when they go to sujood, that was lost. Okay, that was lost. Okay, so is it to force us to follow the messenger? Is that why the description of how to pray isn't in the Quran? Okay, is it to force us to follow the sunnah of the messenger, which we can only do by the inherited form of salah and the tweaking done by hadiths collected by Bukhari and Muslim and Ahmad and all the rest? Is that the reason? No, right? That seems like a very silly reason, right? And the verse of wudu gives a lie to that, right? Because why didn't Allah leave that for the messenger as well, right? If the point was to take the salah from the messenger of Allah, right, from the sunnah, why put the description of wudu in the Quran, right? Is wudu more important? Okay, had Allah wanted, He could have revealed one verse detailing the basic form of the salah. Okay, but He hasn't, right? Is that because wudu is more important than salah? No. Okay, it's because the form, the how of salah, isn't in the Quran because it just isn't important. Okay, and the reason for that is very obvious, right? Because there isn't just one form that is acceptable to Allah. There is one way of doing wudu which is acceptable to Allah, and you can't do a different way, right? You have to do it the way that's in the Quran. But you can pray in other ways, right? There are other forms of salah which are acceptable to Allah. You don't have to pray the traditional prayer that Muhammad brought in the 7th century Arabia. Okay, the 5 daily prayers and the salah of Muhammad ibn Abdullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam that started in the 7th century Arabia are not the only ways to pray. Okay, didn't the previous prophets pray? Okay, would their salah now be defunct? Like if you could find the way that Musa prayed or Ibrahim prayed or Nuh prayed and you prayed them now, would Allah reject that? Would that be unacceptable to Allah? No. Okay, obviously not. Obviously not. So what does the Quran have to say about salah? So regarding salah in the Quran, there are about 4 general types of verses, right, that I want to talk about. So there are those verses which have commands directed to the faithful in general, to us, like to all the believers, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, or you who have faith. There are verses directed specifically to the Prophet, so they're addressing the Prophet in the first person, right? There are verses about the salah that was established in the Prophet's community, so they give us a window back in time to see something of how the salah was done then. Okay, and then there are verses about salah itself and those who engage in it. Okay. So to the faithful, you've got there's basically just 2 types. Okay, there's the verses which come on to establish salah, right? And there are many verses like that. Here's one of them. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وأقيموا الصلاة وآتوا الزكاة وما تقدموا لأنفسكم من خير تجدوه عند الله إن الله بما تعملون بصير. And establish salah, أقيموا الصلاة, and give the zakah, and whatever good you do, whatever good you put forward for yourselves, you will find it with Allah. Indeed, Allah is aware of what you do, right? Is seeing, and so that's the basic command, really, right? That you should establish salah. That's what Allah commands of us, right? Wherever you are, if you're one of the faithful, if you're one of the believers, you're being asked to establish salah. Aqimu salah. What does that mean? Establish salah it means establish it in your life. It's part of your life. Okay, it's a part of your life. Okay, make it into a ritual which is in your life, something which is steady, and you keep it up. Okay. Secondly, that salah is upon the faithful a timely book or a timed prescription. Okay. فإذا قضيتم الصلاة فاذكروا الله قياما وقعودا وعلى جنوبكم فإذا اطمأننتم فأقيموا الصلاة. And the last part here, إن الصلاة كانت على المؤمنين كتابا موقوتا. Indeed, prayer has been decreed upon the believers a degree of specified times. Okay, the word which is being used is kitab, kitaban, prescription. Mawquta. Mawquta means from time. So in certain times, kitaban mawquta, right? In the salah kanat alayhim. Now, the interesting thing in the way it's been worded here is that the salah itself, it's upon the believers. They have it upon themselves. Okay, they put it upon themselves to pray in specific times, right? In regular times, right? So you have to pray in regular times. This is part of establishing the salah, okay? That you do have regular times for salah, regular salah that you space out and you adhere to those times, right? You don't take it in jest, right? Like in other verses we talk about the hypocrites, and when they are called to the salah, they take it in jest or they get up lazily, right? Lazily means what? I don't want to do it now, I'll do it later. Okay, at another time, or I won't do it at all. Okay, so it means there's a time for it. Okay, there's specific times for salah in which it's to be established. Okay, these are really the only 2 commandments which are broad, which are directed at us. Then there come the verses which are directed directly to the Prophet. Okay, and it's something that I've only recently seen Quranists take note of. In some of those who are searching endlessly for the correct way to pray, or the correct times of prayer according to the Quran. Some have only started now really looking at these and seeing that they're addressed directly to the Prophet. Okay, they're not addressed to us. Okay, they're not addressed in a general way, and that's deliberate. And all of the verses which could be said to be given the times for Salah, they are being directed at the Prophet in the first person, not at us in a general way. Okay, and here's an example of that. أقيم الصلاة طرفي النهار وزلفا من الليل. This is the main one which people take to give the times for prayer. Okay, and establish prayer at the two ends of the day, or the two halves of the day, and in the near part of the night, or at the approach of night. It says, Zulafa min al-layl. I take that to mean the near part of the night, meaning basically before you sleep. Okay. Indeed, the good deeds do away with the misdeeds. That is a reminder for those who remember. The point is that here it says Aqim as-salah. It's in the first person. It's not saying Aqim as-salah, right? It's not Aqim as-salah tarafain. No, it's been directed to the Prophet. Okay, you, or Muhammad, establish salah in two halves or ends of the day and in the near part of the night. Okay, it's been directed to him. That's basically it. But the point is, it's not being directed to all of the believers. Okay, and again, that's deliberate, because when you see that again and again and again, all the verses which could be said to be given times of prayer, they are directed in the first person at the Prophet. That is deliberate. Okay, it means again, even that how we are not being given, like that when, the specific when, we are not being given to it. We're not having that being given to us directly. Okay, it's being given to the Prophet. Why is it being given to the Prophet? Okay, it's basically because the Prophet established Salah for his community. He's the head of the community. He's the head of the believers there. So of course he's going to establish the Salah for them, and this is also part of his function. Okay, among the Gentiles, right? والذي بعث رسولا منهم يتلو عليهم آياته ويزكيهم ويعلمهم الكتاب, to teach them the kitab, right? And kitab, again, part of kitab, the word used kitab in the Quran doesn't mean, and I wrote it here wrong, it doesn't mean book. It means the laws, the rules, the prescriptions. Okay, even the word when you say in English prescription, when you prescribe something. Okay, scribe, you write it down. Prescribe something written. Okay, but the point isn't that it's written. It is something that it's been ordered or decreed. Okay, and so that fits in with the previous verse that we said. Then the salah is upon the believers a kitaban mawquta. So the Prophet teaches the kitab, right? So he was being directed, shown how to pray, and then he transferred that onto his community, and they followed him in that. And that's why you have a verse like this. Okay, وَإِذَا كُنْتَ فِيهِمْ فَأَقَمْتَ لَهُمُ الصَّلَاةِ. Okay, and when you, Muhammad, are among them and you establish for them the salah. Here in the translation it says lead, but the word we have here is فَأَقَمْتَ لَهُمُ الصَّلَاةِ. Okay, just like أقيموا الصلاة, establish salah. Here it says إذا كنت فيهم فأقمت لهم الصلاة. Right? Why isn't it saying where with أقمتم الصلاة? Why isn't it just talking to all of the believers, saying when you are doing salah and you're afraid of the there might be an army close by, then part of you pray and part of it's not being said in that kind of way. This whole verse has been directed to the Prophet. Okay, وإذا كنت فيهم فأقمت لهم الصلاة فلتقم طائفة منهم معك, right? And then let some of them stand, a group of them stand with you, right? With you, O Muhammad, right? And let them carry their arms, etc. Okay. So here the Prophet's salah, which he established for them, okay, there's something which Allah is tweaking, okay? It's been amended by Allah due to specific circumstances, okay? The verse is not addressed to us, it's addressed to him, right? So that's another indication that we are not being given a specific way to pray. The Prophet, of course, did establish a specific way to pray, right? And this verse is speaking about that, and it's amending it, right? It's amending it. So all of the things which I mentioned in this verse, I didn't put the whole verse here, but it talks about sujood, right? Prostration. These are things which the Prophet put in Salah. Like, we are not even commanded that we have to have sujood in Salah, right? That is not something that you have to have as part of Salah. Okay. 3. There's verses which show how it was established in the community at the time. Okay, so these verses just give us a window into what was happening. Okay, they aren't dictating nor commanding anything about Salah. And the main one here is, of course, is the verse about not having the really young kids and your servants coming in at certain private times. Okay. So here, without asking permission, right? So here, يا أيها الذين آمنوا ليستأذنكم الذين ملكت أيمانكم والذين لم يبلغوا الحلم منكم 3 مرات. Okay, or you have faith that those whom your right hand possesses and those who have not yet reached puberty among you ask permission of you before entering your homes, basically at 3 times. Okay, before the dawn prayer, من قبل صلاة الفجر. So what does that mean? That there was Salat al-Fajr. When this verse was revealed, that was already established. Allah isn't giving them the name of this prayer. Okay, the prayer wasn't being established by this verse. Okay, it was already there beforehand, and they were already calling it Salat al-Fajr. They were calling it. Maybe the Prophet named it that. Maybe the community just started calling it that. Okay, but this verse isn't providing a name for the Salah. Okay, it's just a reference point for something that's being talked about. Right, about seeking permission at these 3 times. Okay, so before the dawn prayer, and when you put aside your clothing to rest at noon, right, so the siesta, and after the night prayer by the Salat al-Isha, right. So from this we know that they referred to the morning, they had a morning prayer and they referred to it as Salat al-Fajr, and they had a late prayer and they called it Salat al-Isha. Okay, but it doesn't, it's not this isn't given us that there are 3 prayer times. Okay, maybe there are 5. I mean, almost certainly there are 5 if you accept at least some of the history. Okay, but the times of prayer do not automatically overlap with these times where people need to seek permission before entering upon you. Where the kids and the servants need to seek permission. No. Okay, so there could be other prayer times which are not including in that, and they're not those private times, and so they're not included in this verse. Okay, this verse is not giving us that there are 3 prayers, and in fact there's only 2 which are mentioned in this. But some people take this verse and extrapolate from that there are 3 prayers. Okay, no, this verse is not telling us that there are 3 prayers. Only 2 prayers are mentioned anyway. Okay, and it isn't giving us the names of the Salah of them. The names were already there. Okay, this isn't the purpose of this verse. It should be obvious, right? The purpose of this verse is not about Salah. It's not about teaching us Salah, about Salah times, about the name. It's not about that, right? It's about something entirely different, and the prayers are just reference points. Okay, that's all that is, right? But again, it's given us a window into that, and the fact that we have that, right, and it conforms something with the tradition. That there was a prayer called Salat al-Isha. We have that in hadiths and in tradition, and that's what we've inherited. And there was Salat al-Fajr. It confirms that, right? It just gives us that there. Number 4, Salah and the Musallin. Okay, and this is where really you have the heart of the matter regarding Salah is to be found. Okay, they include verses like this. إنني أنا الله لا إله إلا أنا فاعبدني وأقيم الصلاة لذكري. Right? Indeed, I am Allah. There is no deity except me. So be an ibadah to me and establish salah for my remembrance. And this shows that ibadah and salah are separate. They're not the same thing. Okay. فاعبدني, so be an ibadah to me. وأقيم الصلاة لذكري. Now you can say, okay, but you were saying before that those other verses were directed to the Prophet, right? And this one's are being directed, it is Allah speaking to Musa here, and it's in the first person. True, but the point here is that the purpose of Salah is not going to be something that changes. What is the purpose of Salah? It's for my remembrance. It's for Allah's remembrance. Okay? أقيم الصلاة لذكري. The salah is for the dhikr of Allah, right? That's its purpose. Okay. And other verses like this, الذين هم في صلاتهم خاشعون. So this is in praise of the faithful, and that in their salah they have this quality of khushu', right? This humble submissiveness, this kind of awe and fear, right? That's a quality which is in salah, right? So these are two, paramount things that should be in salah. So if you want to know how to pray, first you pray for the remembrance of Allah, and you pray for khushu'. These are far more important than anything else, right? These are paramount importance. So you have those. Then you have this, which is also about salah. Inna salata tanha anil fahsha'i wal munkar, right? Indeed, salah, true salah, the salah which is in Allah's sight is salah. What does it do? It prohibits, or the word here tanha, it sort of like discourages. Okay, it discourages you from immorality and wrongdoing. Doesn't mean it completely prevents you, right? But it discourages you, right? If you're doing salah properly, which has dhikr and which has khushu', as mentioned in these two verses, then it should be something which discourages you from immorality and from wrongdoing, right? From like open evil, right? It's something which you've done regularly, and then when you have this opportunity to do indecency or wrongdoing, okay, the change which salah has done to you, it discourages you from acting it out, or it discourages just because I have salah coming up, I can't do this because I'm going to pray soon, right? Because it breaks up your day sometimes, right? It can break up your day from engaging in immorality and sin as well. Okay, but the point is that that's what salah does, and that's why you have, for example, the hadith, which mirrors this verse. من لم تنهه صلاته عن الفحشاء والمنكر فلم يزدد من الله إلا بعدا. Whoever his salah does not discourage him from immorality and sin, then it's only increasing him in distance from Allah, right? It's just increasing you in distance from Allah if your salah is not discouraging you, right, from immorality and sin. It has to discourage you internally. It has to be something which, if you're a person of prayer, it pushes you away from these things. Okay, even if you don't always completely abstain. Okay, and then you have the descriptions of the musallin, right? So you have the musallin described positively and negatively, right? So there's a musallin that Allah doesn't want, right? And then there's musallin whom Allah does want. Now I've done a whole video about this surah, 2 videos in fact, Surah Ad-Din. If you go back, you can see them. Maybe a good number of you listening have. But here it says, فَوَيْلٌ لِلْمُصَلِّينَ, right? So woe to those who pray. وَيْلٌ لِلْمُصَلِّينَ. Who? Which ones? الَّذِينَ هُمْ عَنْ صَلَاتِهِمْ سَاهُونَ. Those whom in their salah are sahun. They're heedless of its purpose. They're heedless of it. They don't do it with dhikr for Allah. They don't do it with khushu', right? And it doesn't prevent them from fahsha and munkar. And on top of that, الَّذِينَ هُمْ عَنْ صَلَاتِهِمْ سَاهُونَ. الَّذِينَ هُمْ يُرَاءُونَ. Their salah is just for show, right? الَّذِينَ هُمْ يُرَاءُونَ. And I need to space out this properly. الَّذِينَ هُمْ يُرَاءُونَ. They are doing it only for show. Because again, like we said in the start, right? Salah is seen by many as the definitive litmus test of a person's religion, right? So the person who's doing salah, he's religious, right? He's a good Muslim. The person who isn't is not, right? So people want to make sure they are being seen doing salah, right? But what happens when somebody needs help, right? When somebody needs help, these type of musallin who are just doing salah for show, they're absent there, right? يمنعون الماعون. They prevent assistance, right? They withhold assistance, and they can even sometimes prevent others from giving assistance. Okay, so this last person is not a person of salah in Allah's sight, no matter if they pray exactly how Muhammad did or how Ismail did, or if you think that salah is not a ritual prayer, it's something else. Whatever you think salah is, right? If you're a person like this, then yeah, that you're not of the musallin in Allah's sight, right? And then lastly, you have the opposite of that, which is a critical set of verses that describe who the true Musallin are in God's sight, okay? Which is what is important to Him, right? Not the how you pray, right? But who is truly a person of Salah. And it's these verses, because there's a lot of them, I haven't put them in the slides. We'll go over them at the end after the presentation, okay? So let's talk about a little bit about acceptable hows, right? How can you pray, right? And, that question. So there's, of course, the traditional salah, okay? If there's no how to pray, then what is acceptable? There are numerous ways. Like we said, the reason why there is no how to pray in the salah is because of many different ways that you can pray, which will be acceptable to Allah, right? But what you must have is what's been mentioned in the Qur'an, right? What's been mentioned in the Qur'an of salah being for dhikr, salah having khushu', salah discouraging you from indecency and wrongdoing, and not being like this with your salah, being a person of show with respect to your salah, and these which we will talk about soon. But in terms of the house, yes, you can pray in numerous ways, but the Prophet's way was certainly a very good, beautiful way. Why? Well, of course, again, the salah is for dhikr, and Allah praised the uswa, the example of the Prophet in terms of dhikr, right? لَقَدْ كَانَ لَكُمْ فِي رَسُولِ اللَّهِ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ. There has certainly been for you in the Messenger of Allah an excellent pattern, an excellent example for who? For anyone who has hope in Allah in the last day and who remembers Allah often. وَذَكَرَ اللَّهَ كَثِيرًا. And part of dhikr of Allah kathiran, a lot of dhikr of Allah is salah, of course, right? So the way he did the salah, it is a very good example, okay? So that is, of course, one very acceptable how to pray, okay? And note, of course, the verse doesn't say the best way. I mean, this is one of the things which is always translated. They translate here, it says just excellent, which is good, right? Sometimes translated as the best, right, example. It doesn't say best example, it just says hasana, which is good, excellent, or beautiful. Uswatun hasana, not ahsan uswa, okay? And so is the salah of the Jews, okay, which is also praised in the Quran. So there's a verse in the Quran, I didn't put it here, but which mentions the Jews who were praying during the time of the Prophet and praises them, okay, praises them and their salah. So that salah is another way that you could pray, right? It's the Orthodox Jewish way of praying. That's another traditional salah that can be done. It doesn't have to be the one of the Prophet Muhammad. It could be the one of the Jewish tradition, okay? They have a salah which they've inherited from their prophets, okay? Or however it is, the point is that it was praised, okay? It was praised then, okay? In the time of the Quran, it was being praised. So that's a way that you can pray as well, okay? But you can also start with these and then adapt them, okay? So including the times, you can adapt the times. What was relevant to the 7th century Arabia may be less so to a busy doctor, for example, working in a major central hospital, or a student with a full schedule and who also works, right? So you can, for example, create different salah times for different types of days, right, even, okay? So you could say, for example, somebody could adapt it and say in a normal day, right, then they're working during the day, maybe, somewhere in the northern hemisphere where, the days are short as well. You can adapt your salah between summer and winter times, right? You make it manageable, okay? The deen should not be difficult, salah should not be difficult, okay? So somebody could say, okay, in a normal day, they would have a morning salah, they would do a salah after work, and they would do a night prayer before bed, right? And then in days where they work night shifts, they could have the morning prayer and do a noon prayer and an afternoon prayer, okay? Or, one before sunset or before work. And then in the weekends, they could pray the full 5 daily prayers, okay? All of that's far better than being busy all day and then guiltily doing 3 prayers quickly just before sunset, right? Or at the end of the day you pray all of the 5 prayers. Okay, that isn't the way to go about it. Okay, if you can't pray the full 5 daily prayers comfortably in your day due to the just work and stuff, then you can adapt it. Okay, you can join the prayers at the end of the day, right? Join Dhuhr and Asr and then Maghrib and Isha, or you can just adapt a salah which will work for you, but do it seriously. Okay, do it seriously. Don't try to make it too as we said, إن الصلاة كانت على المؤمنين كتابا موقوتا. The salah is upon people of faith, right? They put it on themselves at prescribed times, right? They will do it كتابا موقوتا, regular times, and they take it seriously, right? Don't flip flop too much and be changing your salah every 3 days, right? But have an established salah, which you can do. Okay, the point is you establish a salah in your life for the dhikr of Allah in a way that is doable and easy, and actually provides you that space in which to be in remembrance of Allah. That's the point of it. Okay, the point isn't to whack off a ritual. Okay, the point isn't to whack off a ritual and say, okay, I've done it now. Throw the salah to Allah here. I've done my duty. No, the point is it's for you. Okay, it's for your benefit. It's for your inner dhikr, in order to prove yourself, and all the other benefits which come with salah. We'll talk about those soon. Other acceptables house, all new ways or foreign. Okay, so yes, you can invent your own salah right from scratch. Okay, you can invent a whole new way of praying. Okay, you can do that, right? There's nothing preventing that. Okay, you can, your salat can just be sitting down and meditation, right? It doesn't have to include neither ruku', bowing or prostrating or even recitation of the Quran. It doesn't have to include any of that. It just has to be something which you establish for the dhikr of Allah. You have khushu' in it, right? And you do it regularly. Okay. So, for example, a convert, especially an old convert, I've mentioned this before, but imagine somebody, an old, very old Englishman or old Japanese person, or somebody who is a Buddhist or somebody from a different religion who converts, okay, and who has in their own religion they've performed the salah in a specific way, okay, for all their lives. That's what they're comfortable with. Okay, this person doesn't need to force himself to do the traditional salah. Which might feel very, very alien, very awkward, right? A 60-year-old or 50-year-old Englishman who's never, got down and prostrated or anything like that, but has all his life and gone to church and sat down in the, whatever they do in the aisles and prayed in that kind of way and found solace and peace in that kind of way. He can adapt his salah. Make it Islamic, quote unquote, for the dhikr of Allah, and continue in that kind of way. All right. You don't have to force him to be ruku and sujood, things which will be very awkward and will take him out of the dhikr. Right. There will not be easy things for somebody like that to get used to. The same thing with whatever traditional salah they have in Buddhism or in Taoism or in Japanese culture, wherever it is. Okay. Whatever type of salah people have, it can be adapted, okay, to the dhikr of Allah, and be Islamic, okay. You just have to have it regular times, and of course you remove anything which is not appropriate in the salah, and you can add verses of the Quran, or English or Arabic or any other language. It doesn't matter, okay. All right, so that's that. I'm going to add. I want to add the verses. Let me just stop sharing this screen, and so we can go through the verses which talk about the Musallin in God's sight. Give me a second. There we go. Okay, so these are very important verses, right? They start off from here. You can start off a little bit later, but I prefer to start looking at them from here. So it is إن الإنسان خلق هلوعا, right? So the human being, right, the insan, he's created as something as a creature which is fretful, anxious, okay, impatient or fretful, anxious, okay. Halua means sort of like it's gets scared, right? Gets scared. I mean, here they put anxious, right, and fretful. Whereas here they put an impatient, okay. But I think we can all know that that type of anxiousness which makes you impatient, right, as well. Okay, خلق هلوعا, right? إذا مسه الشر جزوعا, right? When evil visits him, he's impatient. جزوع, يجزع, right? He gets flustered, very flustered, right? When evil touches him, what is it? Fretful again, impatient. It has here, fretful, impatient. So the same idea. Jazua means sort of like you get sort of like like fretful again. I just said the word which is probably the best word, but I've forgotten what I just said now. You just sort of like become apprehensive, right? Ready sort of like flee, surprised almost, right? Jazua. وإذا مسه الخير منوعا, and when good visits him, he يمنع. Remember again from Surah Ad-Din or Surah Al-Ma'un again, يمنعون الماعون, they prevent assistance, right? So here again, إذا مسه الخير منوعا, when good comes to him, he's grudging, he doesn't want to give, he prevents, okay. So here we have it, grudging, withholding is probably the best thing to go with it, okay. Niggardly, right? Grudging, won't give, okay. Yamna, okay. So that is the condition of the human being generally, okay. Then what does it say? Illa al-musallin, except those who are people of salah, okay. So if you are like this or like this, what's mentioned in these verses, okay, then again you are not of the musallin. The musallin are different, right? Those who are regular in their salah, right, it changes them. They no longer become, they're no longer grudging. They're no longer people who grudge and won't give and withhold. They're not people who get fretful easily, right? They don't become like impatient or frightened or anxious, okay, and the other one anxious, right? That doesn't happen to them, okay. Not in this, not to like a huge extent, okay. Why? Because they are people of salah, okay. Who are they again? الذين هم على صلاتهم دائمون, those who are continuous in their prayers, they're continuous in their salah, okay. They stick with it, okay. يقيمون الصلاة, they stick with it, all right, day in, day out, okay, and it changes you, right? It's alchemy of the self, right? The dhikr, regular dhikr of Allah, right? Focused dhikr, to sit and actually remember Allah and to not be distracted. Just like how people who meditate, see how meditation helps them, right? People who are into all of these meditation practices, they will tell you how it's benefited them, how it's made them calmer, less anxious, all of this in a similar sort of way, but even more profound when you have it in the dhikr of Allah, okay. الذين هم على صلاتهم دائمون, so they are continuous in their salah, okay. والذين في أموالهم حق معلوم, okay, and those who in their wealth there is a known right, an acknowledged right, للسائل والمحروم, to the beggar, to the one who asks, and to the person who just doesn't have anything, mahroom, right. Nobody has ever given him, he's not asking, he's mahroom, and for you, there's a certain right in your wealth that you should give to them, all right. So again, that goes back to the idea of he doesn't withhold, he's not a niggardly person of salah, right, because he knows that everything is for Allah in the end. وَالَّذِينَ يُصَدِّقُونَ بِيَوْمِ الدِّينِ, right, and those who believe, this way actually have the word believe, they think it's true, they say it's true, they say it's the truth, that there is a day of recompense, Yawm al-Din. Okay, whether you take that to be an actual final Yawm al-Qiyamah, or that an idea of sort of like karma, what goes around comes around, that everything in the end will be recompensed. Okay, that your doing good comes back to you, that your doing evil comes back to you. Okay, وَالَّذِينَ يُصَدِّقُونَ بِيَوْمِ الدِّينِ. Okay, that's part of being of the musallin as well. وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ مِنْ عَذَابِ رَبِّهِمْ مُشْفِقُونَ. Okay, and those who are worried regarding the punishment of their Lord. Okay, the punishment, they worry about it. Okay, they're fearful of it, right? Mushfiqun, right? Mushfiqun sort of means sort of like when you're worried about something, but in a caring way over yourself, like yashfiq alayh, right? You're saying, I'm worried about somebody because I care about them. Okay, so الَّذِينَ هُمْ مِنْ عَذَابِ رَبِّهِمْ مُشْفِقُونَ, right? They are frightful and worried about them for themselves regarding the punishment of Allah, right? So they worry about that. That's part of being a Muslim. إِنَّ عَذَابَ رَبِّهِمْ غَيْرُ مَأْمُونَ, because the punishment of your Lord, you can't be fully secure from that. You don't know what you might do in the future. Okay, غَيْرُ مَأْمُونَ. وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ لِفُرُوجِهِمْ حَافِظُونَ, and those who guard their private parts, إِلَّا عَلَى أَزْوَاجِهِمْ أَوْ مَا مَلَكَتْ أَيْمَانُهُم, except upon their wives or those whom their right hand possesses. And it says here, or, because you can't have both. We've spoken that before. You can't have both a azwaj and مَا مَلَكَتْ أَيْمَانُكُم, because the latter is only a concession for those who can't aren't able to marry the former. Okay. So again, so chastity, right? So again, it's part of that indecency, the idea that salah prevents one from indecency and open evil. Part of indecency is sex outside of marriage. Okay, so إلا على أزواجهم أو ما ملكت أيمانهم فمن ابتغى وراء ذلك فأولئك هم العادون. So whoever seeks more other than that, then they are the transgressors. وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ لِأَمَانَاتِهِمْ وَعْدِهِمْ رَاعُونَ, and those who preserve their trusts and their covenants. Right. So if you're given an amana, a trust, okay, you watch over it. If you've made a promise or a covenant or anything like that, then you're attentive to it. Okay, you watch over it. That's also part of being of the musallin, because it's part of having taqwa. If you're a person who is remembering Allah in your salah, then outside of salah, you should be remembering Allah, and you should be, watching over any kind of trust which are given to you, and not misusing them. Okay, and trying to fulfill any promises or pledges which you make. Okay, that's all part of being of the musallin as well. وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ بِشَهَادَاتِهِمْ قَائِمُونَ, and those who perform their, they stand up in their testimonies. Right. So when a situation comes where you have to testify to the truth, you stand up for it. Right. You stand up and you testify. Right. You will stand by your witnessing, and you will do it properly, and you will testify to the truth. Okay, without any consideration to others. Okay. وَلَوْ عَلَى أَنفُسِهِمْ أَوْ الْوَالِدَيْنِ وَالْأَقْرَبِينَ, even upon you, against yourself or your parents or close relatives. Right. You stand up for witnessing justice and truth. That is also part of being of the musallin. وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ عَلَى صَلَاتِهِمْ يُحَافِظُونَ, and those who preserve their salah. So they try to look after it. So what does it mean, يُحَافِظُونَ عَلَى صَلَاتِهِمْ? It means you try to protect your salah as well. Right. So there are certain things that can come about which try to pull you away from salah. Right. So an example of that is, it's already prohibited in the Quran, but drinking of alcohol and these sort of things. Quran mentions how that yasudduk an salah, right? That shaitan wants to divert you from salah through these things, through gambling and drinking. Right. And so there are things which can get in your way, in the way of dhikr and salah. You try to protect your salah from these things. Right. So, if you can't stop yourself from binge watching some TV shows for hours on end and forgetting about salah, then you protect your salah from these things, right? You protect yourself from these. وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ عَلَى صَلَاتِهِمْ يُحَافِظُونَ, right? You have to be a person who, it's a part of your life. If you establish your salah and it's something serious in your life, then you have to protect it as well, right? You have to watch over it. أُولَٰئِكَ فِي جَنَّاتٍ مُكْرَمُونَ. And the reward of that, of real salah, proper salah in Allah's sight, which makes you of the musallin, then the reward for that is Jannah, no less. Okay, it's no less than Jannah. All right, that's basically everything that I wanted to say. There was somebody backstage a minute ago, but they've disappeared. Maybe they'll come back. I think it was somebody I've seen before, Tahseen or something like that. Give him a second. Let me check the private chat. Yep, it was Tahseen. So maybe they'll be back in a minute. In the meantime, let me check the comments. Hey, there it is. Come back. All right. Assalamu alaikum.
Oh, assalamu alaikum. It's me again.
Hey.
Yeah.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm fine. How are you?
Good to see you.
Yeah, it's good to see you again. Just by judging by this stream and what I just listened today, it actually kind of gave me motivation a little bit from, like a few months ago, I got more motivated of attending Friday prayers actually, because I was in my home country, and and the way that I was just invited to it, it just felt like a different feeling. So when I came back home, I started going more to Jummah prayer actually, because it gave me this like different feeling.
Yeah.
And that's sort of at least when I have the time, I always go, and it sort of at least reminds me of something,
Yeah.
And just by judging by this stream, I can assume that prayer is something not to be shown off. It's supposed to be for one individual, right? For the person, individual self, and that's at least what I've learned. At least I myself am trying to figure it out of how to do it, and I kind of never judge someone by how they're praying, at least. So if they're praying differently, it's something good. But I actually wanted to ask a few questions about it as well. It's like if let's say a prayer prevents someone from immortalities, and let's say wrongdoing and stuff like that, could you say that someone who does pray but does wrongdoings? I actually saw this video. I think you discussed about it, right? It was like what was it, that one preacher who was talking about like you can that salah keeps you alive. You can do salah, but you can go and murder somebody or go off mosques. Yeah,
exactly. I have that's that video about Surah 107, right? The one who says basically the person who misses one salah is better. The person who rapes and murders and does all of that, but prays is better than the person who doesn't do any of that but misses one salah, just one.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's mad, yeah.
That video, it sort of actually just kind of shows how preachers can really corrupt young people nowadays as well, with that sort of what would you say, mentality, right? They're like misrepresenting what salah is supposed to be. It's supposed to be something for the believer's self, right? Nowadays it's just used for a show. Like you said in the stream, you say it's only to be seen by other people. Like if you don't want to be seen by others like that way. But what I wanted to ask about is like, if someone like starts, let's say, praying again after, let's say, missing, let's say, just after, if years ago they didn't pray and stuff, but they just started doing it again, what motivation would you give them just so that they can like continue doing it? Because they don't want to fall into this sort of circle again where they again miss prayers again and probably fall into something like that. Because I just realized that like from one person's action, let's say for example that they lie to their parents and stuff, right? This lie gets bigger and stuff, but they don't pray, right? But when they pray, they start being more truthful. They get this sort of remembrance and stuff, but then in the end when they stop praying, then their entire life like changes, like their actions defining them, or what they're doing is right. It changes them as an individual. So how do you think if abandoning salah can affect us more compared to not
Never
leaving it?
praying.
Yeah.
You mean like does abandoning the prayer affect you more than never praying?
Yeah, no, I mean, if you're abandoning it, let's say you actually doing, you're not committing any of these acts, but after abandoning salah, you probably lie more, committing more indecency and all that sort of stuff. Do you think it's like that more common, at least?
No, and it's more common. I don't know. I mean, it depends. But yes, I definitely believe that the person who's doing salah properly, the way it should be, yes, it's definitely preventing them. Even if the effects of it don't show up straight away. You know, they don't have to be. You don't have to be able to see the effects. Like somebody could start praying, right, and it will take like a few months before that change you will see it outwardly. Right.
Yeah.
But internally, very quickly, the person who is engaged in salah, internally, they will have that voice be stronger, that stronger voice, that they're conscious, they're Jiminy Cricket, right?
Yeah.
That will be stronger and stronger and stronger, right? The more they pray, right? So that's basically when we say in the salah, tanha anil fahsha wal munkar, that's basically what we're saying, right? What the verse is saying, that the salah is discouraging you. Tanha, it's basically telling you don't do it, right? That's what it's saying. Tanha, like when you say in Arabic, say tanha somebody, like it's saying don't do this. That's what you have, right? The salah, from being a person of salah, it creates that inside you where you have that voice. Maybe we'll say, you just prayed and you want to do this. Come on, leave it be, right? So you have that now. As salah should do that. That is what salah. The effect that you're talking about, that you ultimately refrain from doing that. That isn't something which is an absolute must, right? In terms of salah, right? It will come eventually, right? Certainly. That's why here when it talks about the musallin, right? Those who enter Jannah, it's talking about them who are always upon their salah. Always, right? Because it can take a long time for that effect to materialize completely, right?
Yeah.
So if you go back to, where was it, verse 19, right? From verse 19, no, it's 22, right? Right, the very first thing, الذين هم على صلاتهم دائمون, who are at their, they are constant with their prayer, right? They were constant with it for years and years and years. Okay, and so they will have these descriptions about. Okay, isn't about somebody who has been praying for like 1 month. Okay, right. So it has to be regular and concerted, and people's natures differ. Some people are affected more by it, quicker. Some people are affected less by it and slower, right? But the effect is always there.
Yeah, that's what I want to at least get out to. But what I was actually referring to is, like you say, if someone could just pray, but they can still not be among the musallin because their prayer doesn't prevent them from indecency, bad actions.
Indecency, yeah.
That's that sort of stuff.
Yeah, no, this like, so what's mentioned here. This is the character of the. This is the target, basically. This is what you want to be of the musallin. This is what you want to be with your salah eventually, right? Your salah should convert you, should like change you to having these qualities. Okay, so your regular salah should take you there. All right. By the time you're 40, 45, whatever, right? But it should take you there.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what that means, right? That doesn't mean that somebody who isn't there of the musallin, right, isn't doing salah. They are, right? The salah, even before you reach that target, even before then, right? It's working this function of trying to discourage you from indecency and open evil. Okay, so that's happening even before, right? Throughout your 20s, 30s, all the time that's happening, right? And the more you heed that, the more you actually listen to that, that part, that inner voice, which is being grown by salah, right, to prevent you from doing evil and indecency. When you listen to that and you abstain, right, the more you become on your way to being of the musallin, right, of those who change. Like I said, it's circular but true. You become what you do. The more you stay away from something, the easier it gets to stay away from it, right?
Yeah.
And the more you do something, the easier it gets to do that thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And you mentioned something along, like, what was it? I don't remember. Like, someone can be very impatient or grudging. I don't know if you said this, but
Yeah.
it was like, if someone's salah doesn't what is it? If
Yeah.
someone's praying, but isn't, let's say he's trying to pray like properly, we say, but he's trying to then just show off, but then someone who doesn't pray, let's say, doesn't show off or like prays properly, like that person, like, let's say, who would be more, let's say, the one who's trying to, let's say, try, but isn't really realistically doing it. Now, I think I'm kind of mixing it up. But you don't have to pray properly in order to be, let's say, you can be a Muslim without praying properly, basically.
Yes.
Like,
you can be a Muslim without praying at all, really, right?
Yeah.
But Salah is being it's been decreed for us to help us, right? It's something that you want to take for yourself, really, to help you, right?
Yeah.
If you want to be on this journey, this sort of spiritual journey of becoming closer to Allah and giving up vices and gaining virtues and all of that, then Salah is an incredibly important part of that. That's why Allah has decreed it for us. Okay, it's for our benefit. It's not just for us to do something so you can tick the box, right? It is really for our benefit.
Yeah, it's supposed to, like, remind us of, what is it, like, what dangers we can commit, and if we basically take that reminder and stop, it's reminding us of, like, don't do it, basically. So it's something like that. That's how I always seen it.
It's inculcating taqwa, right?
Yeah.
So that virtue, that primary virtue of taqwa in the Quran, dhikr leads to taqwa, right?
Yeah.
And the Quran and salah, a regular salah, puts dhikr in your life, right?
Yeah.
And so that increases your taqwa, right? Jannah is for the muttaqeen, right?
Yeah. I always get this sort of feeling every day. I always hear people, let's say, like, deaths and stuff in the news, and then I always kind of remind myself of this, and it's sort of like, I don't know, do you ever get this, like, sort of feeling like it's sometimes confronting or, like, very comforting, in a sense that you're reminding yourself of this in a stressful situation? I don't know if you can relate yourself to that, but
definitely.
I sort of like, feel more comfortable with it, like, reminding myself of death, like, I'm gonna die soon, probably. In a sense, I've actually, in, like, last week, when I was, like, having a very stressed day, like, I had too many things in my head, I always try to remind myself of, let's say, like, Surah Yusuf, and mostly like the reminders and stuff, like Judgment Day. It sort of warms my heart. Exactly. So I don't want to think
because
about
you realize that this too will slowly fade away, right?
This sort of joy, like, lasts, I don't know, like, several minutes, I think, after like, then things go back to normal. Like, do you ever, like, have that sort of feeling when you like, something like that comes up and then it just goes away? It's just fascinating. I'm still very young.
These little spiritual states, yes, definitely.
That's what I mean. In a way, as a kid, I always experienced that sort of thing, like something very, like, comforting can be beneficial sometimes, because it can revolve stress, and mostly, like,
because it takes away your delusions, it takes away worries, puts things in perspective, right? You know where things stand, right? Then you don't need to worry so much about everything. Just focus on your sphere of influence, as they say, and be a person of your moment, like sort of living in the moment more, right?
Yeah.
Which is an interesting thing that thinking of death can help you live in the moment, right?
Yeah.
More, right?
Uh,
It can make you think more of your life right now.
yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like these sorts of things for especially other people could be a little bit like a friend to me told me that why do you think like that? It's concerning. I'm like, well, it makes me comfortable sometimes because then I don't have
Hmm.
to think about stress that much because
Yeah, yeah.
um I stress a lot because I have like these I don't know like very stressful situations sometimes
Hmm.
like a lot every day even when I'm awake at night as well when other people are sleeping I still try to just think of something to make me relax and
Hmm.
most people just think that it's strange that that I think of death the first thing that pops up to my mind and I'm like well it's just something I just
Yeah,
adapted or like thought about.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Mm. But
yeah.
I always like thought of this sort of thing about reading. You know, like for instance, I like hear from preachers some like you see like these sort of videos like where people like help in charity or like orphans in other
Hmm.
countries, right? I sort of get like some joy of it because there are good people in the world. I want to at least remind myself of that
Yeah,
and just don't want to lose hope in like all this sort of let's say genocide and war and stuff like that but
yeah,
at the same time be informed I think it's a little bit like happy to see that but
yeah.
at times we live in weird strange times where like everything just doesn't what would I say like mixes up but
Hmm.
that's what I wanted to say. I actually have a
Hmm.
question what was it regarding what was it? Let me just see. It was actually about like preachers in general, right? Like
Hmm.
so our sheikhs and imams and stuff like that. I actually noticed like how most of the time I don't think you'd have to call like most of the time they claim to be the most knowledgeable like type of stuff. Like no one has more knowledge than me type of stuff that I can hear from most of them. Most of my like friends that I have, they
Hmm.
usually always say like you have to take knowledge from the scholars. They're more smart. They have knowledge and stuff like if they
Yeah,
elevated them and stuff like that.
yeah.
Which I find it to be like a little bit strange because I don't know why. Why would someone have to claim themselves to be like they are a preacher, like a scholar that
Hmm.
has so much knowledge? They would say this sort of stuff on television. It's just for
Hmm.
me, it's strange
Hmm.
because most of the time we know that these scholars can say random things that they don't really mean, but really could just confuse himself and even lie in some certain
Hmm.
situations. This is the
Hmm.
stuff I actually kind of experienced and still confuses me.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I don't know how to at least respond to that. So that's why.
Yeah, I mean, look, I
Mm,
mean, when it comes to preachers, and if you want to listen to them, listen to them. But don't just submit your entire intellect to them, right?
yeah,
Yeah, just keep your own mind. Think of what they are saying, and just don't get cultish about anybody. Don't decide that what somebody says must be right, or that they remember that everybody's fallible, right?
yeah,
And a lot of times you should have a bit of compassion for these scholars and these people that they've arrived to where they have because they probably weren't shown a different way, right?
mm,
And they've just gone through that path of, once you get into it, right, it's very difficult to come out. So
mm,
they get into religious studies, and then they go all the way through, and then you have to conform, and you come out the other end, in a certain mold, and that's how you are, right? And
yeah,
it's very difficult to get out of that.
yeah. I mean, yeah. I actually started. I don't know why, but in the beginning, I started like listening to them a little bit. But when I realized like some of those things that they say, like for
Mhm.
example like belittling the prophet's character in some way. Just made me a little bit like anxious, but in the same time, when I actually realized that most of the like these narrations about the negative aspects that they say about the prophets were false, I kind of was a little bit like worried that these preachers might just, I don't know, say a lot of things without even thinking straight, right, from what
Yeah, I mean,
they say.
remember they have their justifications
Yeah,
that they are taught, and you can get swept away by all of that if you're not careful.
yeah,
But look, I mean, it is what it is. You just have to understand that our deen and our ummah has gone the way of those before us, right? We're no
yeah,
different really than the Christians and Jews and everybody there as well. The majority of the preachers in Christianity are the same, in Judaism are the same, right? It's just the way it is, right? The ones who have corrupted the religions of the past were the scholars, and the ones who have corrupted our religion was also the scholars. It's
yeah,
the way it's always been. Okay,
yeah,
because Shaitan, who's Shaitan going to go to corrupt the religion? He's going to go to the sinners. He's going to go to the scholars, right?
yeah,
Um, so that's just the way it is.
yeah. It's like this is literally what it was supposed to be, anyways. Like our own ummah is like worried for like glorifying these scholars instead of like worrying for other stuff like the genocide in Palestine or stuff like that. They mostly just say listen to the rulers. I think you really mentioned that, like you said, what was it? Now I don't remember, but you said like the religion nowadays is like more like revolved around the ruler. Like back then, like people of
Yeah, I mean,
authority were like the kings and these what
yeah,
was
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Mm. So
I mean, a lot. There's a lot in our history which has gone into the makeup of the traditional Islam, and unfortunately, some of that has been, it developed in the setting of tyrannical rulers, right? So,
yeah,
the four madhabs they developed under tyrants, right? Tyrants were ruling.
yeah,
And they only developed after so many years of tyrants rule, right? So there's a lot of influence um, in that. It's telling me
yeah.
my browser
I,
has lost connection.
oh yeah,
Okay.
no. um, I wanted to also ask about like what was it again? I think it was like last stream. I don't remember what you. I was listening to your last stream. What was your last stream again?
It was about spiritual journeying.
Oh yeah, I was like listening to like what was it? The part where now I don't remember it. I forgot. I think it was like something. Wait, it wasn't. No, it was not that stream. It was like the stream beforehand. Now I kind of mixed it with the other one. Sorry. No, it was. I think it was like that ChatGPT one, right? Or
Yeah,
like
there
we
was
were
one
talking
that
about AI. Yeah, I think I
there
was
was
in that
one
stream as
about
well. Like only because AI can only like mimic. What is it? Like you show the video where like a person
that.
was demonstrating
Yeah,
about that can we replicate the Quran or something like that, or
yeah,
like it can only be like mimicked, right?
yeah.
So I don't know, how do you have what are your thoughts on like this artificial intelligence or stuff like that? It's like AI is mostly like very popular, and like if you still any questions it will just solve, but even though we know AI is just
Well, I mean, AI isn't AI yet, really. We call it
it's
artificial
like
intelligence, but it isn't really intelligent yet, is it?
no, it's not
Um,
intelligent,
it's
it's
just
just
yeah,
we
it's just they're just language programs and
mm,
algorithms and putting things together from what's already available.
yeah.
So they're still not really intelligent, to be honest.
Yeah, yeah,
They
that's
like you said, they mimic. The point of artificial intelligence is to try to mimic intelligence of the human being.
yeah,
But who knows where it's going to go, because it's pretty
yeah,
new, right? I
yeah,
mean, in 10 years, where will we be with AI? It might be
yeah,
something very, very advanced.
Yeah, we don't even know if we're gonna be alive in 10 years, so I'm a little bit like skeptic about that. I worry too much about the future. I should probably think about my past right now,
Yeah.
or like my current. So I was reminded of my mom, like, you worry too much in the future. What do you think if you're not gonna work? You should just
Yeah.
focus right now on your studies instead.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, so I
I definitely
to
advise that, focus more on your now and
yeah.
on, what you have around you,
Mm,
and, practice more mindfulness, as they say, right?
yeah. I think,
Mm.
yeah. I mean, I'm just delivered in a few years. Actually, I wanted to at least talk about like one incident. It was like historical. You know, like when
Mm.
in the Prophet's like last moments, right?
Mm.
Um, like when I think the Prophet died in Fatima's house. Like
Yeah.
Fatima was mostly sidelined. If I
Mm.
don't mention that, we don't
Yeah.
really hear much about her. But
Yeah.
yet, when in the Prophet's last moments, Prophet
Mm.
was only focused on one of his wives. Yet
Mm.
what we hear is that since this is Fatima's father passing away in his last moments, wouldn't
Mm.
the Prophet more be comfortable around his children, right?
Yeah.
So
Well, in the early narrations, there's sort of like
yeah,
a fight in the narrations, right? There's dispute in the narrations.
yeah,
Where did the Prophet die? Did he die in Fatima's house, or did he die in Aisha's house? So there
yeah,
was some that narrating that he died in Aisha's house, and some that
mm,
narrating that he died in Fatima's house, right?
yeah,
And of course, that's part of the dispute about the leadership afterwards. So,
mm,
dying in Aisha's house is seen as, something, in support of Abu Bakr, right, being
yeah,
the caliph, and dying in Fatima's house, something seen as sort of in support of Ali being the caliph, right?
yeah,
Um, from what I can gather, he did die in Fatima's house, not in Aisha's house. Um,
mm,
that's what I think.
yeah.
That's what I
I
think
mean,
was.
yeah. I mean, we really just hear like it's Aisha's house because it's the mainstream like traditional Muslims, right? That's what
Yeah,
we usually hear about. We don't really hear about
yeah,
what
yeah,
other
yeah.
views and other narrations it is, because most of the time it's just picking up what they say, right? So we
Yeah,
don't
because they
realistically.
they were the ones who narrated. They were the ones who
Yeah,
narrated, and their students were the ones who narrated, while others, their narrations were not collected, right?
yeah,
Aisha is
yeah,
one of those who narrated over 1,000 narrations, and the
yeah,
reason for that is because, her students and, her students, they were all close to the, authorities. The same with
yeah,
everybody else who narrated over 1,000 narrations, right?
yeah,
Whereas there are other Sahaba who were with the Prophet longer, wives of the Prophet who were with the Prophet longer, and they don't
mm,
have as much narrations as Aisha or the
yeah,
other Sahaba, like Abu Huraira, for example, right? Abu Huraira, dies the same year that, Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas dies, and,
yeah,
of course, Sa'd was an early convert. He converted from Mecca. He's the Prophet's
mm,
cousin. He almost became the Caliph. He was a general, leading the Muslims during the Caliphate of Umar. A lot
mm,
of things, right?
yeah,
But in the six books of Hadith, there's only 150 narrations from him, whereas Abu Huraira there's over 1,000, right?
yeah,
And the reason for that is just because of the rulers, um, the narrators, and they themselves were closer to the rulers. Abu Hurairah was close to Muawiyah, and
mm,
his students were closer to the rulers as well, and their students were closer to the ruler, etc. Right,
yeah,
um, all the way up to Az-Zuhri, who was the court scholar in Umayyad, in Umayyad court, right, from whom
yeah,
we get half of all narrations. So half of all
mm,
hadiths, Sahih
mm,
hadith, they come from Az-Zuhri, this one man,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
They come through him.
yeah.
So,
I
it's highly, there's a great deal of, um, politics, when it comes to, which narrations got into our collections, into Sunni collections.
yeah. From what I heard, really, I think Abu Huraira is mostly like, I don't know, hated by most all the Shias, at least. They call him a fabricator, from what I understand. And from the Quranist view, even if Abu Huraira didn't narrate down those hadiths, there probably would have been someone else who would have narrated that many as him in his time, if people just always blame him because he narrated this much. Apparently, if we think of it that way, like, it wasn't technically kind of, he was probably responsible for narrating a bunch of unnecessary and stuff that shouldn't have been narrated.
He was accused even in his time while he was alive. He was accused of narrating too many things and narrating wrong things. So, and you know, his students used to mix up things from him and from Ka'b al-Ahbar. He used to sit and narrate things from the Prophet and from Ka'b, the Jewish scholar, and then people would leave his gatherings mixing them up, right? So it was very. It's a complicated issue when it comes to Abu Hurairah.
Yeah. The only hadith I can actually think about Abu Hurairah is there was that, like, I don't know what it was, but it was like a hadith where shaitan, like, just ayat al-kursi or whatever. And I still don't understand the purpose of that hadith. It was like, people say, narrate and say these sort of things, like, in the streets and usually in the dawah as well. Like, what is like the point of, like, explaining that hadith anyways?
Sometimes there's very little point, so some of it is just superstition. Superstition that was put into hadiths so that people would take it, like storyteller stuff, right?
Storyteller.
Just storyteller stuff. It wasn't not much more.
I feel like the way we do dawah now is like just more sectarian, really. It's just more like inviting, like you said, I think you said in the stream, it's like you're only seen Muslim in your sect. If you don't do as what they say, you're not considered a Muslim by them. So that sort of kind of wraps up how sectarianism is its own self. It's more like join my crew or you're not a part of my crew. So it's like that sort of stuff. So like you can't be a Quran alone if you are in Shia, Sunni, or whatever sort of thing. That sort of thing. Or then, like, it's very like a devious or like strange to them, right? So that's why I learned not to judge if someone has different beliefs than me. So at least that's one thing.
And give people time. Allah is patient, and you just be patient as well.
Yeah, exactly. I also wanted to actually ask about one of, like, I think I mentioned this a few streams ago, still about like these virtues of the Sahabas, right? Like only a few of the Sahabas we know from, I think, only had like very extreme good virtues. There were some virtues that were passed on to Abu Bakr. They weren't technically, he was never actually, what was it called, al-Siddiq in his time or something like that. Or that these caliphs didn't really use these sort of hadiths to justify their rule in one way. So they were probably made later in order to make them look good by the later authorities, right? So in that way, from what I understand, what you said is like the later authorities wanted to cover up this sort of mess from like try to like, what is it? Belittling like the Ahl Bayt and the Prophet by hiding, by making the three caliphs who made a bunch of mistakes and stuff that they shouldn't have done.
By making them more like it was Muawiyah who sent those letters, 4 letters basically, to all of his governors. One of them which was to praise the earlier caliphs. So praise Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, because that is more damaging to the reputation of Ali than trying to just belittle him. Instead of trying to belittle him, just invent virtues for Abu Bakr, Umar, and Uthman, because that will be more damaging to the reputation of Ali and his claims, basically. So that happened, right? So how it is. Listen, I've got one other person here who's been waiting.
Okay, you can. I can leave it then. That was the last question I wanted to ask. But thank you very much. I participated.
No problem. Thank you so much.
Hopefully one day we can. I can do it again if stream again. So
yes, definitely. Anytime. Any
Yeah.
time,
Thank
free
you.
to come on.
Yeah. No.
All right.
Right. Thank you.
Okay.
Assalamu
Take
alaikum.
care.
Right.
Alaikum assalam. All right. Let's get Iron Man on. Assalamu alaikum.
وعليكم السلام. هل تسمعني؟
You. Alhamdulillah, Asmak. How have you been?
I'm okay, alhamdulillah.
Long time, man. You haven't come on for like 7 months or 8 months. I don't even know, man.
Better late than never.
Better late than never, exactly.
Anyway, that was an interesting presentation, and I'm glad that you went through those ayahs to do with the Musalli, Surah 70, ayahs 19 to 35.
Yeah.
I'd like to share some more ayahs if it's not a problem.
Yeah, let me see. How do I get you to share? Let me first. Okay, hold on first a minute. I think I have to stop sharing that. And or you've got a presentation to share? Is that what it is? All right. How do I get you to share yours? All right.
No, in fact, you'll see the presentation through the webcam.
Okay. Now, how do I change it? Actually, make it look like. Let's try to put it this way. No. How do I make yours? I want to take away the circle thing to make it just like a square, but I'm not sure I can do that here. I would have to actually leave. Let's see, virtual background, general. No, I don't think I can do it while it's going on. Layouts, group layout. No, I don't know. I don't know how to. I'll have to fiddle around with this later. But we can see some of your, enough of your screen, I think, right?
Yeah, I've just made the screen a little smaller. So hopefully we'll get it to fit.
Yeah.
Anyway, the ayahs that I wanted to go through are in Surah 74, starts at 41.
Yeah.
Okay, it says here, Anil Mujrimeen, about the criminals.
Yes.
So it says here, what has caused you to be in the scorching heat? Yeah.
ما سلككم في سقر?
They said we were not of those Musallin, or we were not of the Musallin.
Yeah.
And we did not feed the poor person. And we used to participate with those who spoke falsehood. And we used to deny the day of judgment until the certainty came to us. So no intercession of intercessors could help them. But I just want to go back to 74, I think it's 13, where it talks about, oops. Was it 43? We were not of those, we were not of the Musalli. We did not feed the poor. You see, the thing is, after studying, the word Salah in the Quran for several years, and also coming across these ayahs where Allah talks about the Musallin and those who are not the Musallin.
Yeah.
And after pondering and reflecting upon those ayahs, yeah, I'll personally come to the conclusion that the Quranic Salah cannot be a ritual prayer in any way, shape, or form. And the evidence for that is actually in the Quran. For example, these two ayahs, chapter 74, 43, and chapter 74, verse 44. So here, people are going to say we were not of the Musallin, we did not feed the poor. You see, one of the important things of the Quranic Salah is, to give a share of your money, your wealth, to the needy and the deprived, which you'll find in Surah 70, ayahs 24 and 25. Now, to me, this is what the Salah is. This is one of the elements of the Salah, to give, a share of our wealth, our money to the needy and the deprived. And anyone who, this is what I think, and this is what comes to my mind. Yeah, it could be different for other people, but to me, anyone who's promoting this idea that the Quranic Salah is a ritual prayer, you know what? He could actually be attributing lies to God. Due to whatever reason, it could be due to him being narrow-minded. It could be due to him or her having lack of knowledge or lack of understanding or some kind of bias or guesswork. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He has given us the details of the Salah in the Quran. And I've actually found those ayahs and the details of the Salah. And alhamdulillah, I'm glad you also mentioned them as well. Surah 70, ayahs 19 to 35. Here Allah is describing who the Musallin are. But the whole world will have us believe. Yeah, this is the whole world. They will have us believe that Salah is a ritual prayer to be performed 5 times a day, 3 times a day, or 2 times a day, depending on the desire. Because that's what it is at the end of the day to me. It's going to be according to their desire and according to their imagination. And anyone who's promoting this idea that Salah is a ritual prayer, you know what? Somebody has to say it. Yeah, and I'm going to say it. You know what? They're promoting stone worship. Yeah, somebody has to say it. They are promoting stone worship. And the reason why I say that, is because there is no ayah in the whole of the Quran where Allah is instructing the believers or people, to face the Kaaba, and recite Allahu Akbar, and then read Surah Fatiha, and then read a surah, and then go into what they will call a ruku, bowing, and then stand up, and then go and do a physical prostration. There is no ayah in the whole of the Quran. So the thing is, anybody, as far as I'm concerned, who is promoting this idea that Salah is a ritual prayer, you know what? They're actually promoting stone worship. But most people are not going to admit it. Just like, if I approached a Hindu and I saw him facing, some stone object, if he was facing some stone object, reciting something, chanting his, whatever, and then bowing and prostrating, would he be considered a stone worshipper? Yes or no? Everybody would, all the so-called Muslims would say, you know what, he's worshipping a stone. But he'll never admit that he's a stone worshipper. And on top of that, there is no ayah in the whole of the Quran where Allah is instructing us to prostrate towards Masjid al-Haram Kaaba or Makkah.
Hmm.
So the thing is, why is everyone doing this? Yeah, the reason why
So do
they're
you
doing it is because most people are following somebody else blindly. Yeah,
do
they
you,
are
do you
actually
consider
got
the
the knowledge of the Quran.
hmm. Do you
But
consider
yeah,
then the prostration to be a sujood, like the physical prostration that people do? You consider that to be a sujood?
no, I don't. Yeah, the sujood of the Quran is submitting to the laws of God. That's what sujood is.
Hmm. No, because I was just wondering because if you put it that way, then if it's not sujood, because what Allah says in the Quran is to make sujood to Allah, right? So if somebody does a physical prostration to, like this person who's talking about idol, Hindu doing that to an idol, um, where's the prohibition of that then? If we don't say that physical prostration is also a sujood, where's the prohibition for doing that then?
Yo, I don't think there's a. Well, I mean, there could be. I mean, Allah does say. I can't remember what surah number it is. Yeah, but do not do sujood to the sun or the moon.
Yeah, but
So
that's what
yeah,
I'm
you
saying.
can
So if it's
see.
if you
Yeah,
if
you
you
can
say
take
a
that as a
physical
prohibition.
if you're saying a physical prostration is not a sujood, right? That's not what it means. Um, then in my mind, it's saying basically that there's no prohibition in the Quran against a physical sujood to an idol or to anything else.
Yeah, but the thing is, Khalid, you know what I mean? I know that most people, feel or think or imagine, because that's what comes to my mind, yeah. People
Mm.
are imagining that, the Quranic sujood is a physical prostration.
Yeah, I know. I
Yeah,
mean,
it's in their
mm,
imagination. You see,
that's
they
the
are trying to understand this word sujood, and the only thing that comes to their mind is a physical prostration. I mean, for most people, nothing else is going to come to their mind to
yeah, no,
demonstrate
but
their
I'm saying that
physical prostration.
for you, because you're separating them, you're saying a physical prostration is not sujood, right? Okay, and okay, I get that. So let's work with that. You've got your physical. There's a physical prostration, and then there's sujood, as you see it, like actual sujood, right? Which, according to you, I think what is submission to Allah or following Allah, something like that, right? So if you say that sujood, as you understand it, is for Allah alone, yeah, that makes sense. I mean, we would all agree with that, right? And you'd have evidence for that in the Quran. But if you disconnect sujood from physical prostration, right, then now you've got this thing which is physical prostration. It has um, there's no prohibition concerning it in the Quran, right? So if somebody does a physical prostration to an idol or to another person, to a human being, there's no where's the prohibition for that in the Quran? Because
Well, the thing is,
normally
Khalid,
people would say that's prohibited because the Quran prohibits sujood to any but Allah, right? So that's why they would say you can't do a physical prostration to another human being. You can't do it to um, anything like that, right? But if you say that a physical prostration is not sujood, then you've basically, I mean, this is how I see it. You've taken away the prohibition of physical sujood to other than Allah, or physical prostration to other than Allah, because then there's nothing to prohibit it.
anyway, how does this physical prostration benefit anyone? How does it benefit Allah, and how does it benefit the person who's actually
Well, nothing
doing
benefits Allah,
prostration?
but
On top of that, Khalid, I'd like to point out that
mm,
I've actually seen videos of people doing a physical prostration to other people,
yeah.
as in some mufti or some scholar. Yeah,
Okay,
so,
so
so, so
what's
some
why can't
blind
they do that?
follower, I've seen some blind follower, do a physical prostration to his imam mufti, sheikh, or peer. So the thing
Fine,
is,
okay.
you know what? This physical
Well,
prostration is not something that
what I'm asking,
Allah
because
commanded us to do. And if
but
somebody does do it, it could be just him, you know, being extreme.
yeah, I mean, but you're very
See,
rightly
first he's got
saying,
to
looking
consider
at
this.
that and saying
He
that
needs to take this into
it shouldn't be done.
consideration.
Yes.
There is an ayah in the Quran where Allah says something like, when He tells us that whosoever is in the heavens and the earth does sujood, yeah, willingly or unwillingly, as do the shadows morning and evening.
Hmm.
Now, over
Yeah, look,
here,
I know,
in this
I
particular
understand.
context, this sujood is going to be, yeah, you know what? I mean, if you're talking about the shadows, it's going to be, obeying God's laws. I mean, people are obeying God's laws, whether they're doing it willingly or unwillingly. I mean, each cell in our body is following God's laws.
I mean, for example, look, when it comes to this one thing I was wondering, right? So when you say that the sujood of the shadows, right, is obeying God's laws. Well, I mean, and another way you can look at that is, well, what are they actually really obeying? What's the sujood happen? It's to the sun. I mean, the sun is the thing which is making the shadows, um, you know, be, they're following the sun, right? So a a shadow is following the light of the sun. It's obeying the light of the sun, right? So when you talk in the other ones, do not do sujood to the sun, like the other verse, right? La tasjudu lishams. Do not bow, do sujood to the shams. Well, I mean, I'm looking at it in that kind of way. I'm saying, hey, aren't the shadows doing sujood to the shams? Aren't they doing sujood to the shams, to the sun?
Bro, I don't know where you're taking this, yeah. You know what? I don't know whether you're trying to defend,
No, no, no.
the
I mean,
the
I was
physical
just wondering.
ritual,
I thought
yeah,
it's
this ritual
interesting.
prayer and the physical prostration. I mean, it could be, yeah. You know what? I mean, the last time we discussed this, yeah, yeah. You know
Mm,
what? I was hoping that you would actually come round
mm.
because, like I said to you, yeah, there is no ayah in the whole of the Quran where Allah is instructing the believers to recite the Quran back to Him.
Yeah, yeah. You mentioned that.
Yeah, the Quran is meant to be recited to the people. This is how they're going to get out of the darkness into the light.
Yeah.
This is how they're going to stop, you know, the the evil or the bad deeds. Yeah, and start doing good. It's only by, somebody reciting the Quran and them lot taking heed. This is how it's going to happen. This is how society is going to change. But people who are promoting this idea that Salah is a ritual prayer, you know what? According to me and according to my mindset, yeah, number one, they're attributing lies to God. Number two, they are promoting idol worship. And on top of that, stone worship. Because if you look at what's going around the Kaaba, which is a stone object, we've got millions of people facing in that direction. I mean, I don't know why. Well, obviously, yeah, I know why. Because, the ruling elite and the influences, yeah, they, brainwash the people eventually.
Mm.
Yeah, they brainwash people into believing that, you know what, the Quranic Salah is this ritual that you need to do 5 times a day. And then other people, what, who have discovered that, there's something wrong with hadiths. Yeah, they've come up with 3 times ritual prayers. And then other people will come up with this idea that no, you know what, there's only Salatul Fajr and Salatul Isha mentioned in the Quran. So that means there's only 2 ritual prayers. You see, everyone just, absorbed into these ritual prayers. Whereas there are no details of this so called ritual prayer that everyone is doing in the Quran. I
Yeah,
mean,
that's true.
if Allah wanted us to do these ritual prayers, yeah, I'm sure it would have taken another 3, 4 pages, yeah, for Allah to, describe in detail how to do this ritual prayer. But it doesn't exist in the Quran. And on top of that, yeah, you know, by by trying to paint this picture in everyone's mind that Salah is a ritual prayer. Like I said to you, okay, let's go read chapter 96, verse 9 onwards. Yeah, because this also talks about Salah, and it talks about people who prevent the Salah. So it's either me, yeah, who's mentioned here, or it's everybody else, the majority. So let's go through these ayahs, yeah? Chapter 96, verse 9.
No, but to be fair, the I mean, what you're saying salah is, right? I don't see the majority as preventing that, right?
Well, if the
So
majority,
they're not mutually
of course they are,
exclusive. Like
of course they are,
what you're saying
the
salah is.
majority believe that it's a ritual prayer, when they have offspring, yeah, they are going to teach their offspring that Salah is a ritual prayer. So, yeah,
Yeah, but they will
it is
also
the
teach.
majority. It is the
No,
majority, and I'm a
but
victim of this as well. Anyway,
but
let's
they're
check
not.
out Surah
They're not.
96, verse 9, yeah? It
Yeah,
says
no,
here,
you're right.
أَرَأَيْتَ الَّذِي يَنْهَا. Do you
Abdan
see
idha
the one
salla.
who prohibits? Abdan idha salla, a servant from Salah.
Yeah, but this is
Did
what I'm
you
saying.
see?
You're saying
I'm reciting the
either
Quran,
the
bro.
person
I'm
mentioned here
reciting the
is
Quran,
you
and
or
brother, you're
everybody else. Yes.
interrupting, man, which is not right.
Sorry.
I said I'm trying to recite the Quran, and you're interrupting.
Sorry, I didn't hear you were right. When you paused, I tried to
Chapter
speak.
96, verse 11. Did you
Mm.
see if he was being guided, or that he advocated righteousness? Did you see that he denied? Ya ara'ayta inna kadhaba wa tawalla. Did you see that he denied or fabricated a lie and turned away? Does he not realize that God can see? No, if he does not seize, we will take him by the forelock, a forelock which lies on earth. So let him call on his supporter. We will call on the guardians. No, do not obey him, but sujood, wasjudu, and come near. So let's go back and analyze these ayahs a little bit, yeah? So here, Allah is telling us about those who are preventing the salah, the abdan, the servant, from the salah. And then we have a question, yeah? Do you see if he is upon guidance? Yeah, so I mean, we need to take this into consideration. Yeah, this person over here who is preventing God's servant from the salah, is he upon guidance? It's either a yes or a no. Yeah, and then it says, yeah, the next question. Or that he advocates righteousness, if that's the correct translation. Yeah, taqwa. Now, the thing is, yeah, this person over here who's, advocating rituals, yeah, he's the one who's preventing the Quranic salah. That's what comes to my mind. Yeah, and then it says here, did you see that he denied kadhaba, or fabricated a lie and turned away? So, I mean, we need to ask this question to ourselves, yeah? I mean, what comes to my mind is, what, people who are preventing the Quranic salah, like those ayahs that you discussed earlier on, to do with the musallin. You see, the whole world will have us believe that the Quranic salah is a ritual prayer. Most of them are not going to tell us that in the Quran, Allah has given us the details of what the salah is. They will paint a picture in everyone's mind that it's a ritual prayer to be performed 5 times a day, 3 times a day, or 2 times a day, according to their own desire or the desire of somebody else. Now, what comes to my mind is these people are preventing the Quranic salah. These people, they are trying to paint this picture in everyone's mind that it's a ritual prayer. Yeah, are they enjoining righteousness, taqwa, or are they enjoining rituals? But what comes to my mind? They're enjoining rituals. And then I've got a question. I have to question them, or question myself. Are they upon guidance, yes or no? I mean, I'm not claiming to be guided, but I have to question if everyone else is. And what comes to my mind is, I don't think the majority are guided. The majority, according to the Quran, chapter 6, verse 116, Allah tells us that if you follow the majority, they will lead you away from Allah's path because they follow conjecture and they are guessing. And that's exactly what's going on. Most people are guessing. And there are, some people who claim to be Quran only, they'll still be promoting rituals. They will still be promoting rituals because that's the only thing that comes to their mind. Yeah? Are these people promoting righteousness? Are they promoting taqwa? Because if you're promoting taqwa, then you know what? You are not preventing the Quranic salah. But if you are promoting rituals, yeah, you know what? You're part of the problem. You ain't the solution to all the problems which we encounter in this world. Corruption, destruction, yeah, oppression, exploitation. Yeah, this is what the Quranic salah prevents. It prevents all this. It prevents immorality. Yeah, it enjoins good. It forbids evil. Yeah, so like I said to you, yeah, you know what? And somebody has to say it. Somebody has to say this. So I'm going to say it again. Yeah, anyone who's promoting this idea that the Quranic salah is some kind of ritual prayer, yeah, you know what? You better go and study chapter 96, verse 9 up to 19. And ask yourself a question. Are you guided? Are you promoting righteousness? Taqwa? Are you promoting taqwa or are you promoting rituals?
Can I ask you?
Yeah,
Do you think? Do you think is sujood part of salah? Like sujood, according to your definition, is it part of salah?
well, I don't think sujood is this physical prostration that anyone is doing.
Yeah, I know. I'm talking about according to your definition, both. So according to your definition of salah and how you view sujood, you think sujood is part of salah?
Yo, it's connected.
Hmm.
It's connected to the salah. Yeah, one of the details of the salah is to recite the Quran. See, when people then take heed, yeah, they then are submitting to the laws of God. I mean, because that's what the salah is at the end of the day. Yeah, the Quranic salah is basically to fulfill the duties and obligations which are laid down in the covenant. That's what the salah is. It's not a ritual prayer. And you know what? Whoever he is this year, you better be 100% sure that you know what the Quranic salah is a ritual prayer, because if it's not, then you're attributing lies to God, and there's going to be a curse on you. I mean, that's what comes to my mind. Anyone who's promoting this idea that salah is a ritual prayer, you know what? There could be a curse upon them. And people who are doing it, yeah, you know what? It could be a curse.
Well, why
It
do
could
you
be a
think it's
curse.
mutually
Allah knows
exclusive,
best.
though?
Sorry.
Why do you think your how you see salah is right is mutually exclusive from the ritual prayer?
Yeah, because I'm following the Quran. I'm getting my details of the salah from the Quran. It's not coming from my imagination. I'm
Yeah, but
presenting the ayahs.
I understand, but try to understand what I'm saying, because you're saying, okay, you were saying before, I forget exactly how you phrased it, but you were saying that either you were referencing the earlier verse, right? Somebody's preventing salah, right? Like in this verse, the verse before this one, right? أَرَأَيْتَ الَّذِي يَنْهَى عَبْدًا إِذَا صَلَّى, right? So you were saying it's either you who's preventing salah, or other people, the people who would say salah is a ritual prayer, they are preventing salah.
Yeah.
But I don't see them preventing your definition of salah. Like, for example, I do actually believe 100% sure that salah is ritual, right? But I'm not preventing what you say salah is. I'm fully on board with that, right? I completely encourage what you say salah is, right? Connection and following what you just saying, following the covenant, right? And yes, I'm completely encouraging that. So I'm not trying to stop that. I don't think anybody who thinks salah is a ritual prayer would be against what you are saying salah is. Nobody, I don't think there's anybody who's trying to prevent what you are saying salah is from among those people who say salah is a ritual prayer. But the opposite I see is true, right? I see that you are trying to prevent the ritual prayer, right? From the people who are doing ritual prayer. You're trying to prevent them, right? You're telling them, no, this is wrong. This is, if you promote this, you put the curse of Allah on you, and etc. Right? So that's why, to me, it just doesn't. It's not mutually exclusive. Like, I can have your salah and the ritual salah, right? I can perform the ritual salah, right? And I can do what you're saying a salah is, right? And I'm certainly not trying to prevent what you say salah is. I'm fully on board with it. I think everybody who thinks salah is a ritual prayer is on board with what you say salah is, right? But it's not converse, right? The only preventing I'm seeing, right, really is from the camp of those who say it's not a ritual salah, and they are adamant that other people stop performing this ritual salah, right? And they are telling people, no, salah is about connection, it's about following closely what God says, it's about all of these things. And the other side are saying, yes, we're on board with all of that, but we also think that salah is a ritual salah. And so they're not mutually exclusive. That's what I don't really see in what you've been saying so far.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that being a problem. Yeah, I could see that being a problem. I mean, one thing I've noticed, yeah, is people who have come to the realization that we shouldn't be following these extra sources called hadith books. Yeah, you know what? They still think that the Quranic Salah is a ritual prayer. Yeah, I mean, for whatever reason. And the thing is, I've seen people, inventing their own ritual prayer. Like, I have a friend, yeah, and he's come to realize that, yeah, we shouldn't be following the hadith, we shouldn't be following any of these scholars, muftis, sheikhs, or imams. But when it comes to the word salah, they still think it's a ritual prayer. They think that, this salah, for some strange reason, yeah, is linked to righteousness. And is it? And on top of that, I mean, where in the Quran does Allah instruct the believers here to say, Ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh? I mean, why are people saying this even before the salah begins and during the salah? I mean, don't you see that there's a problem there? I mean, don't you see that there's a problem saying Allahu Akbar before you start this ritual prayer? And saying things like Assalamu alayka ayyuhan nabiyyu. What, dude? I mean, don't you think that is shirk?
Me personally, no, because I've explained what I think shirk is. Shirk is about ibadah, and even this, the people seem to view it as some sort of like prayer to. It's not a prayer to Muhammad. When you say "Assalamu alayka ayyuhan nabi," you're not praying to him, right? It's not like asking him for something. It's not a dua for him. So it's neither shirk nor is it dua.
Say Ya
Sorry?
ayyuhan nabiyyu.
It doesn't matter if you say Ya ayyuhan nabi.
As in present tense.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. So what?
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
No, I think there's something wrong there.
In my view, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be part of Salah. Even you can take it out of Salah. I mean, you were just saying that you were talking about somebody who
is the messenger of God.
You can take that out. You can take that out of the Salah. But yeah, it's a true statement. Muhammad is the messenger of Allah. You can take that out of the Salah.
We're bearing witness that he's the messenger of Allah. And if we look at Surah,
Allah bears witness that he's the messenger of Allah. So why can't you?
Well, if we look at Surah Munafiqun, it was the hypocrites that were bearing witness that Muhammad was the messenger of Allah.
Yeah, they were bearing witness because they wanted to be believers.
And then Allah bears witness that the hypocrites are liars.
So what? Is he bearing witness that what they're saying is a lie?
Don't you see that there's a problem there with?
No, there's no problem. Hypocrisy means that you are lying. It doesn't mean that what you're saying is a lie.
Yeah, but
hypocrisy means you're a liar.
What kind of witnesses are we?
Sorry?
We're not eyewitnesses. What kind of witnesses are we?
You don't have to be an eyewitness.
Why don't we have the name of Muhammad? Yeah, why are we not bearing witness, that Muhammad is the messenger of Allah? Isa is also a messenger of Allah. Musa is also a messenger of Allah. Why does it have to be Muhammad?
Because he's our messenger.
Yeah, but
he's the messenger who is sent to us.
Yeah, the believers do not make any distinction between any of the messengers.
Yeah,
so
I think that's a false thing. Allah makes distinguish between the messengers as well, right? But anyway, that's a false. He's our messenger. It's as simple as that. But if you like, put in all of the other messengers as well. Instead of saying
لا نفرق
لا نفرق بين أحد من رسله, right? Means we do not make teams between فريق, different teams. We don't make, this is our team, this guy's our team, he's your team, that guy's your team, this is our prophet, this is your prophet. That's what it means. We don't make, it doesn't mean distinctions. Allah himself has made distinctions between the prophets. He placed some of them above others. He says
he's able to do all things. Yeah, but I don't think we should be making any kind of distinction between any of the messengers.
Well, it's fine. I mean, if you want, you can make the shahada for all of the messengers.
You know what? I don't think this conversation is going anywhere. Anyway, I've made my point. Yeah. I've made my point. Anyone who's this idea that the Quranic Salah is some kind of ritual worship that needs to be done X amount of times a day, you know what? Number one, they're attributing lies to God. And number two, you know what they're doing? They are promoting stone worship. That's what they're doing. They are stone worshippers. And just like a Hindu will never admit he's a stone worshipper, just like the traditionalists will never admit that they are worshipping a stone. And on top of that, you know what I mean? I mean, you won't believe this, yeah, but I personally also believe that I don't think the Prophet, peace be upon him, was born in what we call Saudi Arabia. Even though the whole world will probably believe this. And on top of that, I also don't believe he was born 1400 years ago. Even though that the whole world will have us believe that he was born 1400 years ago. And on top of that, I also don't believe that the Prophet, peace be upon him, did this ritual prayer that everyone else is doing.
Where and when do you think he was born?
You know, I believe he was born 500 to 600 years ago.
Okay. And where?
Yeah, you know what? We will discuss this another time.
All right. Okay. Do you remember? Because you came on. For anybody who doesn't know, Ayman came on. When was it? Last year or the year before? Where you had like a where you explained Salah in a very detailed way. Do you remember which stream that was? Just to make a note for anybody else who wants to see that, because yes, you've explained things a little bit over here, but in that one you went through in a lot more detail, and you were showing a lot more verses and explaining it much more succinct, so just more in detail. I just want to mention for anybody else who wants to go and watch that, because there are people, I think there's quite a few people I think who are agreeing with you in the chat as far as I can see. Do you remember which live stream that was, or anybody else in the chat remembers which one it was? No. Well, that doesn't matter.
I mean, I can't remember.
Yeah, that's fine.
I think it could be the one about Abraham and the birds.
The one about Abraham and birds. Okay, then we'll check. Yeah, well, they can check that one. All right, okay, that's fine. I've got somebody else here, Alif, who wants to come on. So let's leave it there. And thanks again for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Yallah, Assalamu alaikum. Okay, Alif, let's get you on, but let's try and make it brief, because it's getting pretty late where I am. Assalamu alaikum.
Yeah. Walaikum salam. Yeah, I'm late for praying Asr, but it is considered mustahab to delay it, just like Isha. So, not Isha. Pardon me. Yeah. These are the fiqh rules that we have to follow. Well, depending on the madam, obviously, but maybe you're a Hirel. It's not mutaklid. That would be like you split what you agree with. Anyway, no, I'm only going to take like an hour and a half. I just have a few minutes to go. So, I was just listening to Sikh Nitnem sort of chanting and kind of playing the bongos, and they're saying these really beautiful poetic things about how you gotta, even if you're like an ascetic and you're going all out, you've got to focus on meditating on the Lord, Creator, and that's what's gonna really get you there. And it's in Punjabi, so I don't understand it. I have to read the subtitles. But I was getting a vibe off of it. So I was getting a little bit of a zikr instead of like listening to some other, some pop music, for example, right?
Yeah.
I think a lot of people have this problem with Arabic. So I get a lot of people in like progressive Islam that are kind of coming in and out of the deen. They have this issue because they're not really connecting with the words. So I liked your presentation. I maybe, as usual, I would maybe criticize you're limboing a little too low on some of the formal requirements. So I'm going, whereas Iron Man had the opposite critique, that you're saying anything at all, and it's like, no, idol worship, right? So this debate that's been exacerbated by mostly some of these smaller Quran only YouTubers engaging with Muhammad from God, who's been the most successful at marketing this message, not his specific, obviously his specific take on it, but he's done pretty well. He's got 25K subs, and he's got a strong personality. So these guys have been going at it, and he's been calling them the M word, which is hardcore. It's more than just takfiring somebody, because it's like you're going to super hell. It's not even just saying you're going to hell and everything. Takfir is like you put in all this work, like doing all these, getting up for Fajr every morning, for example, and then you pay for Hajj. You still go to hell. It doesn't matter. You have the wrong Akida. And, I've seen this with Christianity. The Eastern Orthodox versus the Catholics is like an interesting example where they're very close, but, do you have the right inheritance of ecclesial authority? So this is not unique to Quran only people. As usual, what I try to bring to these conversations is that I find going outside of the Quran and looking at not just the Bible, but some of the historical and archaeological foregrounds can shed some light on this. So generally speaking, most Qur'aniyun agree that Surah Baqarah is giving a parable that has some historical basis from the Bani Israel in the desert. They've been instructed to do a ritual and they over litigate. You had a whole episode on this, and don't ask, right? They make it harder for themselves with like thick minutia about it.
Yeah.
And it's on this basis that we say, well, as long as you're trying to humble yourself in Salah in some way, and then you're getting somewhere. So if you look at the Bible, there's a couple of points where the sacrifice system, which is what Sir Bakra is alluding to in that, is it's a sense that God doesn't really care about sacrifices. God prefers obedience. And there's another instance where Saul is going to make a sin offering after he's made a sin, and it's kind of like, I'm going to like do this sin, and then I'm going to like go to confession, or I'm going to go say astaghfirullah, and this is criticized as idolatry because it doesn't have hushu in it, right? It's a disingenuous, like God is a vending machine thing. And you and I have discussed being critical of the gamification through a lot of Umayyad era, presumably hadiths, of rituals. You get the 4,000x multiplier and praying in Medina. You get like, depending on how many people are in the Juma, you get these big multipliers. It's like playing slots, but with your Salah points, right? So what you try to teach is the hushu, right? That regardless of the form, focus on the hushu. And what I teach is also that the fiqh, this is going to invalidate my salah, or are we praying cross-armed or saddle, etc. This takes people out of it, right?
Yeah,
and it becomes people. So generally speaking, what the a-ritualists argue, like I listened to another guy briefly, but it's like, okay, I got the gist of it, moved on. But is that they're like, these mainstream Muslims have done a terrible job exemplifying taqwa, and therefore their salah is probably not that useful. But I don't think it's because of the informalism. I think it's because the hushu has been beaten out of it, like the way you
that's exactly right. Yeah,
cabbage.
There's no dhikr in it, exactly. Because look, dhikr, it takes the taqwa, right? In the Quran, وَاذْكُرُوا اللَّهَ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ, right? Being dhikr to Allah in order to attain taqwa. So and salah is made for dhikr, right? The point of salah is to establish for dhikr. So if your salah doesn't have dhikr in it, it's not going to have khushu', it's not going to take you to taqwa.
Yeah, well, and this is where I agree like a lot with Muhammad, that if you're like a monotheistic Buddhist or Sikh, you're kind of achieving salah like aims in those meditations or in the Nitnem. And so, this is sort of taking like 569 at its word instead of like the Ibn Kathir take, and then circling around.
Can you just explain that a bit? What you're saying about that?
Oh, well, like there's this idea that Buddhists might be people of the book because Dhul Hifl could be referring to the Buddha, and
no, I mean, specifically, what about the prayers, or what? Well, what are they about?
It depends. Like they might be missing the theistic focus, right? Which we would say this is where Sufism is bordering Buddhism or Vedantism, right? But it's not a clean border. There's some overlap. There's some schools of Buddhism where people do believe in God and they do love God. It's not just negating all.
Yeah.
It's not totally anti-monistic.
Yeah.
Like the stereotype. And then there's sort of shirky types of Buddhism. Likewise within Vedantism. And then the Sikhs have a few ideas that aren't totally congruent, but the Sikh is like Guru Nanak was kind of a Quranist in some sense. You'll really notice like it's like get up and pray tahajjud, halal learning, like cover the basics, and then get rid of all this other Mughal invasion stuff that obviously.
The reason why I asked is because I don't know anything about the Buddhist salah or how they pray or anything like that. But the thing about when we talk about the khushu' in salah and the dhikr in salah and what it's supposed to do, there's more than one component in salah, right? So when you're in salah, yes, there's the dhikr, part. You see it in yourself when you're praying, right? When you're praying, there are times
Yeah.
where you're praying and you feel as if God is watching you, right? There are times when you're praying and you feel as if like you're watching God, right, inwardly. And there are times when you're in praying, you're in salah, and you're sort of like your thoughts are empty, right? So there are different components, different ahwal, right, that go through you while you're in salah, right? Including in the emotions and the coming down and humbling yourself and in these things. Of course, there's also moments of forgetfulness, right, where you start thinking of what I've got to go do this or this TV show or all of that.
I'm going to be honest. I'm not as pious as you or Muhammad, who've been really at this for a long time. I've been doing this every day, mashallah, but for like a year and a half, and it's given me a lot of benefits. It's given me happiness. It's gotten me off of addiction and all these haram things. I've like matured as a human, and I've gained. It's almost like a drug, but it's halal, and it's because it's concentrating on God. But at the same time, I'm not quite that good. Like I think about, oh, I gotta make money, or I gotta go do this errand, or like I want women or whatever, and then I'll say forgiveness. So maybe inshallah in a couple of years I'll get it better.
I mean, it develops, of course. But what I was saying about that, just because I'm thinking now, what you're talking about the Buddhist prayer and these sort of things. So they have an element, like you were just saying, the theistic focus might not be there, but part of that, and some of the element of salah that we would have, you'll find it in them as well, right? And so, of course, they're going to get benefits from that angle as well, right? So a salah that's done.
Well, one thing I'll say.
Yeah, go ahead.
One thing I'll say for the Sunnah is that compared to that, because like my wife got initiated into Buddhism almost a month ago in the Sangha of Avalokiteshvara, which is Tibetan. And so she tries to block out like half an hour. It's difficult with a young child and all that. Get grandma to babysit. Whereas the Salah being doable in the Sunnah fashion of like a 4 rakah block in about 5, 6, 7 minutes it's very good, because if you have a little bit of fear and enough devotion, you combine these things, you can really try to snap yourself into that brain state in a short amount of time, and then you can get out of it, you get back to work. And so you can thread it into your lunch break. You can thread it in. You can if you combine them, you have a busy schedule of commutes and scheduled meetings or lectures, classes, whatever, right? You can thread it. So I think there's a beauty to that design. And I think also that there's some continuity with the earlier ummas. So are you familiar with the Essenes of Qumran?
No.
We've heard of the Dead Sea Scrolls.
Yeah.
So part of what we got out of that find, other than preserved apocryphal gospels and some other things, are some records of this community. Like they stashed away their library at some point. And these were the predecessors to Yahya the Baptist, alayhi salam, and Mary, alayhi salam, and Jesus, alayhi salam. And this is why I don't think he's Jesus of Nazareth. He's Jesus the Nazarene. He had a Nazarene vow, which is like this Sufi, like next level dedication that Jews could optionally take. And they were kind of, in a funny way, they were kind of like Iron Man. So I'm trying to be diplomatic here, because I really want to heal this ikhtilaf with some deeper insight. Where they were like, this whole temple thing that they're doing over there in Jerusalem, in the big city. There are like 10,000 people in the city. This is kind of idolatrous. It's become hypocritical. It's become a business. They're butchering, there's fountains of blood pouring out of these animals every day. And then it goes to the meat market. That's your zabiha, right? So it was like for a bigger population, it turned into a real slaughterhouse. And they were vegetarian and all this stuff. And might remind you of like Al-Hallaj. This is what got Al-Hallaj killed. They thought that the real temple, like the Kaaba, right, by analogy, was in the heart, and that their purified hearts were adequate as a place. and they began to pray the prostration on the ground in a non-specific location. And so I think that tradition then is carried on through the Messiah. And then the Jewish rabbis, after the temple was destroyed, adopted it as sort of a concession, like, okay, this is what we're going to do instead now. So they caught up to what the Essenes were doing after God let them get historically displaced, after that business was closed. And then you have like a hadith where among 5 things, one of them is that I've been given these privileges that no other ummah has, and one is you can pray everywhere. But that hadith, I think, is a fabrication, kind of like the later one that's only found in the Ahmad ibn Hanbal collection, where Umar is reading the Torah and the Prophet Muhammad is like, no, don't you know that Moses would have to follow me? Whereas in the Muwatta, he's like having people executed to obey the Torah. Like, it's pretty clear that it's not like a total abrogation, right? So, but like people had to reconcile this, and Christians will bring this up. They're like, why don't Muslims have a sacrifice ritual? Well, we have Qurbani on the Hajj, right? But that's not a mainstay thing. It's the Salat. It's because there's this continuity with Qumran, with the Essenes. So I think about that. I think about its place in the constellation of meditation practices further east, and its efficiency, and how you can also get lost in those meditations and lose the monotheistic focus, or go into a shirk focus. And so for these reasons, beyond just the anecdotal benefits it's given me, I think that some semblance of a sunnah salah, in the sense of a lived tradition, is it's really quite good. I think it's near optimal for for a working person, for somebody who isn't a monastic recalcitrance from the world.
Yeah, it is. I mean,
they should try it. They should give it a shot.
It is. I mean, what I was mentioning in my stream, that it can be that for somebody who has intense work, like I said, somebody who's a doctor in a hospital. There are certain, life has changed in certain ways where you would have to adapt it, right? You'd have to adapt it a little bit to, otherwise it's just going to become a burden, and it's not going to be a space for dhikr. It's not going to be a space where you can actually be in that headspace for dhikr, right? It's not like 7th century Arabia, where they didn't have those kind of pressures. Though I do believe that it's optimal, right? That I pray the 5 daily prayers myself. But there are times where if I've got a really intense day of work and there's so much to do, I'll adapt it a little bit, right? We already have that already into the fiqh idea, which is already in it's not even has to be in the fiqh idea. It's something which the whole ummah has as part of the tradition, that you can join prayers, right? So yeah, I would freely join Dhuhr and Asr, for example, right? If I've got a busy day and I don't want to try and rush and squeeze a prayer in the middle of the day, no, I'll combine them and pray them afterwards, right? In that sort of sense, it's optimal. But sometimes, yeah, I try to. But the thing about the other thing about it, just think of more further and further into the future, right? Especially if we start thinking about humanity, existing in, after another 100,000 years, or maybe even colonizing different parts of the galaxy or something like that, right? The salah it's not going to be as optimal, right? To have to do the exact same salah done in 7th century Arabia. We can't imagine it now, but there's going to be change. There's going to be circumstances where it's just not going to be feasible, and so that's why how to pray, it just isn't in the Quran, right? And which is why it is adaptable, right? So the optimal for us right now, we're still very close to the time of the Prophet. Humanity hasn't changed that much, but there are places where it is different. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what I said.
absolutely. No, and this is why I don't think that like Ismailis are outside of Islam for having the ritual changed. The guy said that we're in the time where if you do 10% of the deen, then you'll be saved, right? We're in the Qiyamah epoch,
Yeah.
where everything is going to be revealed, and and that's an interesting idea unto itself. Yeah, one thing about the O Nabi.
I have
Oh,
a question
sure.
here.
Yeah. I sound very American, don't I? It's like how what else could I be other than an American guy? Yeah, so if you basically like I think you're attenuating your serotonin, and then you find later as you like add the zikr after the salah, maybe dua as well, because you're gaining some hope that you get a little more dopamine out of it as well. And then when you are addicted, so the word addiction has its root in a spiritual devotion, right? So you're kind of like idolizing whatever it is that you're doing, in addition to the physical chemical effects. But it's like there's a psychological spiritual, spirituality and psychology are interlinked, right? So it's kind of like you get in a habit and then you replace it with another habit, and that other habit is not as immediately satisfying, but it has a longer term satisfaction. And just like the Quran says, it helps you to shift away from that. So then you start doing the haram thing less, and you keep doing the halal thing. And then, sometimes at night, like I go out and I pray under the stars, and then I'm doing the 33 Alhamdulillah, Allahu Akbar, Subhanallah, doing that zikr, and I do some La ilaha illallahs, and I look at the stars, and it's kind of like what you would want to get out of like using a drug and doing that, but you get it in a more clean way without side effects.
Yeah.
And then I want to add that I had this quandary because obviously like a year ago I was like maybe actually 14 months I was like crying. I was like, what am I going to do? Then there's another prayer time coming up because I didn't want to commit shirk and I didn't want to commit kufr, right? So I was in this dilemma. So I had to do a little ijtihad, and I changed the ode prophet for to the prophet, which is what Ibn Masud did, and in Medina, and then the Kufans adopted that, and that got kind of lost in the waves. And I don't do the full tashahud in the second rakha. It's not considered wajib in Hanafi and Maliki, and it is in the Shafi and the Hanbali. So I was like, well, that's an easy one. Like, here's two madhabs that are based in the early days, and here's two Bida madhabs. Oh, by the way, what do you think of the term Bida? Do you think this is something that has any meaning?
No, not really. No,
It's
not
sort
really.
of like it's kind of like everyone's accusing each other of Bida. It just becomes like a rhetorical.
Yeah.
Well, and I noticed that Iron Man's arguments, it's like anytime that somebody makes an assertion from some kind of basis, here's the scripture, and I read it like this, and then I have these other pieces of knowledge that I apply, and here's my process, and then I come to this conclusion. And you're not necessarily correct, right? Because who knows the mind of God exactly? But I don't think that's the line. And I think that there's a distinction about, do you say what you do not know, or do you say what you do not understand? And how you translate that word might be a good topic for future video. Because you can just accuse anybody in any debate of being among the accursed evildoers for
Yeah.
being wrong, right? And who's to say who's right? Obviously, it goes around. No, it's cool. I'm gonna hop off now. And anyway, so
All right.
all right, I'll let you
Okay.
get on with
Okay,
the
brilliant.
rest.
Yeah. All right. Brilliant. Take care. Thank you so much again for coming on. Go on to the person after you, and inshallah,
Well,
see you again
well.
soon. Okay.
All
Yeah.
right.
Salam.
Cheers.
Salam alaikum. Okay. And last but not least, wise wisdom. Salam alaikum. If they are still there.
Salam.
There we go. Wa alaikum assalam. Yes, go
Hi,
ahead.
what's your name, brother?
Khalid.
Khalid. My name is Wissam.
Assalamu alaikum assalam.
Walaikum assalam. Hope all is well.
Alhamdulillah.
I just want to begin by thanking all the work you do on this channel. It's very beneficial. Helped me a lot also. So I just want to start by thanking you on that.
No, jazakallah khair. No problem.
So I'm on the position that Salah is not a ritual prayer. But the way I came towards that was by reading chapter 10, for example. In chapter 10, verse 94, Allah tells the Prophet, let me just get the verse out.
Oh,
Allah
I
tells
can
the Prophet,
bring it out as well.
yeah, if you can bring it out, that would be great. Chapter 10, verse 94.
Chapter 10, 94. Yeah.
Allah tells him, the Prophet, فَإِن كُنْتَ فِي شَكٍّ مِمَّا أَنزَلْنَا إِلَيْكَ فَاسْأَلِ الَّذِينَ يَقْرَؤُونَ الْكِتَابَ مِنْ قَبْلِكَ. So basically, like if you are in doubt about the stories, the revelation that you're getting, ask those who recite the scripture before you.
Yeah.
I just want to know, why would Allah put this verse there? What's your opinion on that? What do you think that this verse is there for?
I think because the dhikr is always preserved. There's always the dhikr is still there, right? So when it says فَاسْأَلَ الَّذِينَ يَقْرَؤُونَ الْكِتَابَ مِنْ قَبْلِكَ, they are the people of dhikr from the previous scriptures, right? So you always have a people of dhikr who have kept knowledge of the previous scriptures, right? And so the Prophet, it's been told really to all of us through the Prophet, right? So instead of saying, it's sort of just almost a rhetorical device. Instead of saying few people are in doubt over what we have revealed to Muhammad, then ask those who study the book, right? Instead of being said to us, it's rhetorically being said to the Prophet, but also to him. You can read it that way as well. Like if you or Muhammad are in doubt, like you're not sure, right? You worry, hey, am I out of my mind? Am I crazy or something like this? Then ask those who have the kitab before you, right? لقد جاءك الحق من ربك فلا تكونن من الممترين, right? The truth has come to you from your Lord, so don't be in doubt. I mean, I basically see how it says.
Yeah, I agree as well. Basically, if the Prophet had any doubt that this revelation that he's getting about Moses, because he was talking about Moses and Pharaoh and all what happened to the children of Israel, Allah is telling
Surah
him, you
Yunus,
can go
right?
out.
It's Surah Yunus, right?
Yeah, Surah Al-Yunus.
Yeah.
If you see the
So it's
previous
talking about
verses, it's
about Bani Israel.
yeah,
and Fir'aun. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So Allah is telling him, like, imagine if the Prophet thought, like, oh, am I getting the stories right? Is it true that what I'm getting is right? He can just go ask one of the children of Israel that was present at his time, who are reading it. And when he told them, has Moses come to you guys? Has this thing happened? And they would confirm it. They would be like, how would you know? How would you know? How would you, as an unlearned person, know that? Then he would be confident that he got the truth from God. So this verse is very important to me because there's a verse just a few, like 6 verses earlier, where Allah says, verse 87, if you can pull it up.
He said, أجل بيوتكم قبلة, that one?
Yes.
Yeah.
So
تبوأوا لقومكم بمصر بيوتا واجعلوا بيوتكم قبلة وأقيموا الصلاة. Yeah.
وبشر المؤمنين.
وبشر المؤمنين.
So this specific verse is talking about an event, and anybody can go read the whole chapter to see the context. But this is specifically speaking about before the Exodus, because after this verse, Musa prays, and you can see فَبَشِّرَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ, give good news to the believers, is basically the good news comes, which is they will escape from Pharaoh. This is going to be, this specific command that they're doing on 87 is going to enhance their release from Fir'aun, because Fir'aun, he saw a lot of signs, and every time he would see a sign, he would ask Harun and Musa to lift the sign up, to lift the punishment up, but then he will go back to being an arrogant person. He wouldn't let the children of Israel leave. But this specific command that Allah told the Harun and Musa to tell the children of Israel to do regarding their house, I'm not going to translate Qibla or Salah because, there's debate over it. But whatever they're told, we can be sure that whatever they did on that day enhanced their release from Pharaoh. So
I thought you were about to talk about something in the previous scripture that this is mentioned in. Did you say something just a minute ago about that? That this what's mentioned here is like mentioned in the Bible or something, or yeah?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, what's the story about it? Can you tell us?
Yeah, it's very interesting because, like, this event, you can read it today too if you have the Old Testament. This is it's a celebration that they keep till today. By the way, it's an ongoing celebration. It's called the Passover. The Passover, which basically means the time when they passed over from Egypt to the Promised Land, the time when Allah passed them over. So according to the biblical narration, Allah inspired Musa and his brother to tell people to sacrifice a sheep and put the blood on the doorpost of each house, on the doorpost of each house of the children of Israel. So they had a specific commands they had to do, but basically regarding the sheep, what kind of sheep it had to be and stuff like that, which has a lot of details in regards to what's happening in Egypt at that time. You
reminded me, I think, a little bit of the stories that we were told in like school about this when we were like really young. Like when I was very young, we used to go to like a school. I think it was Christian. Now that I think about it, and I think they told us the story. And so what happened with that? The plague or whatever thing that God was going to send down, it wouldn't attack the houses which had that. Huh?
Yeah, the
something
Israelite.
like that, right?
Basically, so basically, what broke Pharaoh? That's the most important thing. What broke Pharaoh to release them? This man saw
the firstborn death, yeah?
Yes. You see, he saw, think about it, brother. Like, if I saw a little of what Pharaoh saw, I would have believed. But Pharaoh is such an arrogant person. He saw all the 9 signs and he didn't let them go. The one thing that broke him was the fact that he knew when the death of the firstborn came, he knew he was dealing with somebody who's controlling life and death. And he told Musa and Harun, leave Egypt immediately. Because you can see Allah tells them after they fulfill the command, it tells them فَبَشِّرِ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. Same thing is told in the Quran regarding the Prophet and the believers when it comes to like their domination of the conquest. فَبَشِّرِ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. When it says فَبَشِّر, that means good things is coming. إِنَّا فَتَحْنَا لَكَ فَتْحًا. Stuff like that, like good news is coming. So this specific event in chapter 10, verse 87 is what broke Pharaoh and what got the children of Israel out. So when following the Quranic rule, if you don't know, if you are in doubt about the story, ask those who recite the scripture before you. I went and I asked the people who read the scripture before us. I asked them, hey, what did God command Moses and Aaron to tell the children of Israel to do with their house? I did not say were they commanded to pray. I didn't say anything. I just asked them, what were they told to do regarding their house? And once they explained to me that it was the death of the firstborn and everything made sense to me, because it could only be, that's the only thing that could break Pharaoh. I don't think Pharaoh is going to break because the children of Israel went home and prayed. They were already praying for 400, like so many years, and Musa is the answer of their prayer. The fact that Musa is sent is Allah heard their prayer, and now Musa is sent to liberate them. But like you see, like the problem is with the traditionalist understanding of Salah as ritual prayer, like in the translation I have here, it says, go to your home, establish your homes as a place of worship and pray. And I'm like, really? Would Pharaoh release the children of Israel because they went home and they just pray. It
I don't
didn't make
understand,
sense.
but yeah, so you're saying Salah is the the death of the firstborns? I don't understand.
No. Salah, aqimu salah is, like the brother before also said, is to follow whatever commandments God tells you to do. Because that's the only salah. The children of Israel, in that verse, they were given a specific rules that Moses and Aaron told them. You see, Moses and Aaron told them specific things that God told them to do.
Okay, yeah, but what were those specific? So you said you went and you asked, like you said, the people before us, some Jews or Christians, some Jews, I'm imagining, like some Jewish rabbi or something, right? And you wanted to know, and you asked them, okay, in this situation, right? What did Harun and Musa say here, basically? So you're looking for what they have in their scripture, which is analogous to this verse. Okay, so I'm not understanding what was it that they told you that they were told.
It's specific commands in regards to sacrificing a sheep and putting the blood on the doorpost. That was the commandments that they got at that point. So
okay,
basically,
so why don't you say Salah is sacrificing?
Because the definition of the commandments, like basically Salah is to follow something closely.
No, and but no, that's circular, right? Because you're saying you want to understand Salah from what you're saying, okay, I don't know what Salah is. I don't know I'm going to go to Ahl al-Kitab and I'm going to ask them what the commands is. I'm not going to say prayer. I'm going to ask them, what did Musa and Harun command the Bani Israel to do? And they answered you. They commanded them to sacrifice and to put the blood on the thing. So let's say sacrifice, because of course putting the blood on the doors isn't going to be something that we're going to have to do now, right? So in following that methodology, right, you should say Salah means sacrifice.
No, sacrificing goats or something. You're getting me wrong. When it says aqimu salah, is to follow whatever they've been told, and that is
you see where you're putting the thing first, right? You're saying that means that. No, but we're trying to find out what it means, right?
Give me some time, okay? Give me some time, and I'll give you another verse that can show you. Because I want to pull up chapter 2, verse 83.
Okay, but now we're just moving to a different verse. Okay.
No. It's still the children of Israel. I'm trying to tell you the Salah of the children of Israel. The problem is you are expecting Salah to be one specific thing, meaning do this and this. You know what I mean? But it's not.
I mean, but they're told two specific things. Two things, right? All right. So I was just following the logic that you were putting out in terms of asking those before us, right? Yeah. So if those before us told us that the two things that Harun or Musa were commanded in this situation to do was to sacrifice and to put the blood on the things, then you're gonna say that that's what this is, right? That's what I would think. But anyway, okay, tell me what's the other verse?
I didn't say that. I said, look, Salah is a duty. Look, it differentiates within the context. It's not basically the same thing in every context, in the sense that you have a duty. The duty for us today as Muslims is different from the duty they had. For example, they had a specific commands to sacrifice an animal. That command is not mentioned right there. When it says aqimu salah, look,
I understand what you're saying, but it just seems meaningless because of course they have to obey. It's like saying, okay, well, I mean, what did you expect? What did you expect? So no matter what the Bani Israel had been commanded, when you go to ask those before us, no matter what Bani Israel had been commanded to do in this situation, you would say it's Salah, right? If they had been told to actually pray, to actually physically, if you had went to the people before, right, and they had said, no, they told Harun and Musa told us here to do ritual Salah, you would say Salah is just following the commands. If they had been told to sacrifice, you say, no, it just means following the commands. If they had been told to do Hajj, no, it means following the commands. It makes it meaningless. It just makes it meaninless. This whole exercise, I'm just talking about this verse for now. The whole exercise of saying, okay, I'm going to go and ask Bani Israel what they were commanded here to find out what salah means, it becomes a exercise in futility, because no matter what you find out that they were commanded to do, you're going to say salah means following the commandments.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's
What's
a meaningless.
What's wrong?
No,
with
it's
that?
there's nothing
How
wrong
can
with
you-
that. I'm just saying it's a meaningless.
Think
It's a meaningless.
Think about it. In chapter 10, verse 87. The other explanation is Musa and Harun told them to go to their home, make their homes as a place of worship, and pray.
No. So
Does that
first of all, no. So first of all, what I would say here is, look what from the beginning, people miss out the beginning of this. تبوأوا لقومكم بمصر بيوتا. What does that mean? What does that part mean?
Explain. Continue.
Well, it says, I'll just read, appoint or find, basically, find for your people in Egypt houses. So go and find places to live. And this next part is telling you how should you make those houses. It means qiblatan means facing each other. Qibla is when you face something, like it does mean that, face a direction. أَجْعَلُ بِيُوتَكُمْ قِبْلَةً means make your face, you basically live all in one quarter, live together. Okay, be close to each other. Make your houses face one another. أَجْعَلُ بِيُوتَكُمْ قِبْلَةً. For why? For safety, right? You're in a hostile environment, okay? And we're about to send plague and this and this and this and whatever, right? You stay in your homes, basically. Establish salah, because we are sending punishment to the rest, to Fir'aun and his people. Okay, that's what is being said here, right? Because from the beginning, it's saying, okay, find, make homes, appoint homes for your thing. وَجَعَلُوا, and this is a description, it's telling how to do it. Make your homes qiblatan. What does it mean, make your homes qiblatan? Make them face each other, make them close to each other, right? And establish salah, right? Almost like, like you have the verse about the wives of the Prophet. وَقَرْنَ فِي بِيُوتِكُمْ, right? وَلَا تَبَرَجْنَا تَبَرُجَ الْجَاهِلِيَّةِ الْأُولَى وَأَقِيمْنَا الصَّلَاةَ, right? And stay in your homes, right? And do not tower over others, and establish salah, right? So it's that's how I would.
Okay, so the specific the children of Israel, what salah did they do?
Sorry?
What is the salah they did then in chapter 10, verse 87? Was it a ritual prayer?
No, it's a prayer. Yeah, they were commanded to establish salah in their homes.
So they were commanded
right?
to pray in Egypt, in their house.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
how pray here? It didn't have to be the. For example, now the Jews have the Orthodox salah, right? They have the Orthodox. Didn't have to be that, right? I mean, I'm not arguing that there's one specific way of doing salah. I'm not arguing that, right? Salah in its essence, actually, the word, it just means a prayer, right? Like just a dua. Dua is actually a salah, right? To say, oh Allah, forgive me, that's a salah itself, right? That in itself is salah. So they're being told to stay in their homes and establish salah. So during this period where this is going on, where all of these where Allah is trying to take them out of Egypt and He's going to punish Fir'aun, you guys, your sole duty is to stay home and establish salah. What establish salah? Again, for dhikr, right? Remember Allah. Spend this time in remembrance. Spend this time in dua. Spend this time, with Allah, and we're going to take care of and bashir al-mu'mineen, because that's what like you were saying. Good times are going to come. Give them the good news. Yeah, and the bushra is given. Where is it? The next bushra is
I just don't understand how just going to your home and pray let Pharaoh leave. That just goes.
No, nobody said that. I mean, that leap you're making, that the leap that what's happening here is going to make
everything that history is saying.
And what's everything that history is saying? If anything, history is saying that the Prophet Muhammad taught a ritual prayer. If you want to talk about history, everything that history you have is that Prophet Muhammad taught a ritual prayer, right? There's more history about that than there is about what the Jews think Musa and Harun told their people.
But
right?
we're not told to go ask the history that was written after Prophet Muhammad. Allah never said.
Yeah,
if you are
no,
in
but
doubt
you're
about
talking about history.
Muhammad,
But if you're talking about
no, I'm not. Look, let me finish. We're not told if you're in doubt about Prophet Muhammad, go ask Bukhari. Allah
well, of course
says,
you're not
if you're
told, because it's
in
a
doubt
mute
about
question.
the stories that
It's a mute question.
about
I mean, if there was a revelation revealed
people
now
before regarding this
Sorry,
specific
cutting up.
story, this specific story,
Sorry, you're cutting up.
the context. So, like, what? How can I accept your test from Pharaoh, which does not make sense?
You're cutting up, so I can't really hear you very clearly. Could you just repeat that last part? Hello? Hello? I don't think it's from my side.
Hello?
Nothing. Yes, hello, yes. I can hear you. Oh, I can't hear you now anyway. A little bit. You're cutting off a bit. You're cutting off quite a bit. He's gone. I'll give him a second to try to come on, but then I might have to leave. It's already late. Maybe it was a bad idea doing a stream about Salah, eh? Let's give him a bit of time and see if he can come back on. There we go.
Salam, brother. Can you hear me?
Hey, salam. Yes, I can hear you now.
Brother, if you are busy and you have to go, it's okay. We will catch up another time.
I don't want to leave you with any unfinished thoughts. So you can just we can try to wrap it up. It'll be good. But yeah, let's just finish what you were saying before.
Okay. So my point is, in order to understand chapter 10, verse 87, we have to go ask the people before us. Because anybody who will come and tell us about chapter 10, verse 87 is just making up their own word. They don't really know what happened. Because to deny the Passover is to basically deny like the whole history of the children of Israel. I'm being that honest with you guys. If you go ask,
yeah, but I mean, who says that this is about the Passover? Yeah, I mean, look, first, let's agree on one thing first.
Specifically about the Passover.
No, but let's agree. I understand you. Let's agree on one thing first. So you're saying that are you saying that this verse is unintelligible by itself without having to go to the children of Israel? Is this verse meaningless?
This is speaking about the children of Israel. So
yeah, but I'm talking about
ask them regarding what happened.
No, hold on.
Ask them.
Allah says, ask him at the end of the story, right, to the Prophet Muhammad about the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
Right, the whole thing. Not everything which is detailed in the Quran about the stories of the past is confirmed by them. They have things which are wrong. They have things which we will not accept. Harun is the one in the story of Musa and Harun, right? You're talking about children of Israel. Harun is the one who created the golden calf. Are you going to go and ask them about that? In the biblical stories, according to the Jews, Harun created the golden calf, not a Samiri. Okay, so point being this. Okay, if you're going to be a person who takes the Quran seriously, right, and you say the Quran is clear, it is understood, then this verse is understood and clear by itself, without reference to the Bani Israel, right? Without reference to what they say. It doesn't matter what they say right now. Right, this verse by itself, can you understand it or not?
How can you say it doesn't matter what they say?
It doesn't matter what they say in terms of the clarity of this verse. I don't need to go back to the children of Israel to understand what this verse means, right? Unless you want to say this verse.
How will you know if it's true or not then?
What do you mean? I know the verse. I can understand the verse, and I believe this is a revelation from Allah. So this is true.
They went home and prayed. They were commanded to go home and pray.
Yes, so they were. If If they,
how
if
does
you go,
that enhance Pharaoh to release them? That's just how I don't understand. How is
it
that
doesn't. It doesn't. I don't know where you get making this leap from. Who said there's nothing in this verse?
وبشر المؤمنين, after that, Pharaoh releases them.
No, Bashir al-Mu'min doesn't mean
What
if
is
you
the
do
good
that.
news children of Israel are expecting? What
Look,
good news can
it's being said. It was said in a different verse. عسى ربكم أن يهلك عدوكم ويستخلفكم من بعدهم فينظر كيف تعملون. It's there. The bushra is given. It's not that if you establish salah, Allah is going to destroy your thing. I don't know why you're making that leap.
No, I'm not making that leap. I'm asking you, what enhanced Pharaoh to release them?
Yeah, it's not their salah. No, it's not their salah.
Miracles, he didn't release them. So
yeah, it's not their salah. It's not their salah. But the verse doesn't say it's their salah.
Is the commandments that they did in this verse?
No, there's nothing which Bani Israel did which caused Allah to release the Bani Israel. They didn't do anything. Bani Israel did nothing.
Nothing they did that really
zero. No, they did zero. They did zero to have Pharaoh release them.
So
what did they do?
Specific commands for
no. Allah did not. Pharaoh did not release them. Pharaoh did not release them because of what they did.
Pharaoh released them because
they sacrificed.
No, because he lost his son. And
did Ben Israel do that? Did Ben Israel do that? Make him lose his son?
The children of Israel had to fulfill a certain command that Harun and Musa told them to do from God, and that enhanced it.
No. Look.
It's there. I don't know why it enhanced it. Look.
No, who said? Where's this enhance it from?
Pray.
It's not. It's got nothing to do with their salah. Right? Allah sent punishments on Bani Israel, right? On Pharaoh and his people. He sent punishments. He sent a messenger. He sent a messenger. They rejected the messenger. He brought ayat to him, right?
Do you know the story of Pharaoh?
I know the story of Pharaoh. And Allah sent signs after signs. Pharaoh did not release Bani Israel because of anything that Bani Israel did. Whether you say that it enhanced or it didn't enhance, it doesn't matter. What Pharaoh was forced to release them because of what Allah did to him. Right? What God brought down upon him. What God brought down upon Pharaoh, that is what caused Pharaoh to release him. Look at all other verses in the Quran, right? That's what it is. If you want to say no, it's because
brother,
go ahead, sorry.
What you have to understand is Allah is not going to do everything by himself. Things have to happen on earth for things to happen. For Musa had to put the staff on the water for it to split open, right? Allah had to tell him to do a specific steps for it to happen.
Yes.
The reason why I wanted to go to chapter 2, verse 83 is because the children of Israel only received guidance in the form of scriptural guidance after they left Egypt. That is when, while they were in Egypt, all they knew was the first commandment that Allah told Musa to go tell them. That is the only thing. After they left Egypt and they went next to the mountain, Allah raised the mountain above them and gave them the commandment. What was written on the tablet. And regarding that.
Yes, I understand that. But I understand, but that's got nothing to do with them praying before that. Doesn't matter. Like I said, Salah.
But you're saying that they were praying, but you have no.
Yeah, they were praying. Are you really going to tell me that Harun and Musa did not tell Bani Israel to pray, to make dua to Allah, to remember Allah?
They were already doing that before.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So why are you saying that they
go pray again? They're already praying. They were already praying for hundreds of years.
No, they weren't praying for hundreds of years. But
okay, no problem. They were praying.
They were idolaters, by the way. You know, Bani Israel in Egypt were mostly idolaters. Bani Israel in Egypt were idolaters. Yeah, they were idolaters. They weren't.
Okay. What's the evidence?
Well, every Jews will tell you that. All the Jews will tell you that. He asked, are there evidence? Ask the Jew, those before us, right? The Bani
Okay,
Israel
then
in
you can go
Egypt
ask
were
them.
idolatrous. Yes,
They themselves tell you that they didn't perform any ritual prayer in Egypt.
I never said it has to be the ritual prayer which they did. I said they just made prayer. They did salah.
Well, they can
Right?
make dua. I can make
that's
dua.
what salah. Yeah, that's what salah is. Salah is look, and you can sit down on the floor and make dua. That's salah. That is salah. Okay. Here they're being told to establish salah, right? To establish salah. Okay. So I don't see the issue. The Prophet Muhammad, right, according to us, right, those who believe that it was ritual prayer, he prayed. You think he didn't pray before he received revelation? They prayed. They had salah, right? He prayed. People in Mecca. Yes, khalas. So what's the issue? I don't understand.
Anyway, my point was, I'm not talking in regards to Prophet Muhammad or anything. My whole point was in regards to chapter 10, verse 87. That's all.
Yeah,
And
I mean, I don't see the point that you made, to be honest.
10, verse 87, it has to do with the Passover, because if you actually see the story of what happened, even the context, it's after this event that they're released.
Yeah, that isn't why they were released.
Okay, then we can agree to disagree, brother.
Yeah. The Bani Israel did not make anything happen, right? Allah said all of the signs that came to them, the locust, the blood, all of these things, all right? Bani Israel did not have to do something for these things to happen. Okay, the locust, the frogs, what was it, the blood.
So
from Allah.
They didn't have to sacrifice an animal and put the blood on the door.
Sorry?
So they didn't have to sacrifice the animal and put the blood on the door?
Not to make that thing happen, no.
Not to make that thing happen?
Not to make it happen, no.
If they didn't put the blood in the doorpost, then all the firstborn of the Israelites would have died too.
Okay, yes, they would have died. Okay, so then it shows that it isn't them who make it happen.
You think Allah would have let that happen while the children of Israel haven't done the command? You don't think what they had to do is followed by what Allah is going to do?
No, I think that they have a duty to obey Allah, right? And if they didn't, if they didn't, then their firstborns would have been killed too. Exactly. And I think, if I remember, that there's some story about a part of the story is that there were some who didn't do it, and their firstborns were killed, or something like that. But also, to be honest, I'm not. To be honest, in the Quran it talks about the rijs, right? And the idea that Allah is going to kill the firstborn, innocent children, right? Massacre all the firstborn innocent children or thing. And I don't accept that anyway, right? So you can accept that about Allah if you want from the what those before you are teaching, but I don't accept that. I don't accept that Allah had all of these firstborns killed.
But Allah drowned the whole people of Noah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the kids were not there.
No, the kids were there, but when Allah drowned the whole people of Noah, right? Noah, that's when He destroys the whole people. Not the firstborns. Let me take out the firstborn.
What's the difference whether it's the firstborn or all the children?
Because now this is how. Well, I mean, why does Allah destroy people, right? So this is how I see it. I see Allah.
Because He has the ability to take life and give life. That is
Allah. There's more wisdom to it than I can, so I will. The idea is that Allah destroys the people once they have reached a point of no return. Okay, so when there's a point of no return in the people, their fasad has reached a level where they are not going to come back, right? Then it's more mercy to have these people destroyed than to leave them there, so that more generations will be born in that society to be corrupted further and further and further, right? So it's like a reset.
It's a reset. Pharaoh? Is there anyone that did as big as fasad than Pharaoh?
Yeah, but we're not talking about just Pharaoh. I mean, in the end, he was destroyed when he followed Bani Israel, right?
Yeah. So
yeah, but we're not. But the firstborns at that time, Allah was not destroying the people. It was just saying, "I'm going to take out your firstborn." Right? Yeah. It wasn't that. That's it. Let's and
He
in
did
the
what
end,
they
and
he
in
did.
the end, all of the Egyptians were not all of Fir'aun and his people were not destroyed, were they? It was just Fir'aun and those who and his army that followed the Israelites. The rest of the Egyptians were still there.
There is exactly. So what I'm saying is, Pharaoh literally his child died, and that is what enhanced him to release the children of Israel.
Yeah, like I said, I'm not convinced that. In the Quran it says it's not.
Okay, that's up to you. Well, the same thing I can tell you when it comes to the story of, like, I don't want to jump into other stories, but even in chapter 18, a servant of Allah killed a child when he was with Musa.
Yeah.
But like for us, like just like Musa, we would detest it. We would be like, why would you kill a soul?
Yeah, I mean, again, I see that as it's very look, in this one, for example, we're talking about a unique servant of Allah, and I think there are many more like this, right? We're getting a window into a secret sort of like life of sort of hidden people who are given knowledge of the future, right? So like how people now say, why didn't Allah kill? I don't like to use the baby Hitler thing, but the baby Hitler thing, right? Right. So Allah has given certain people knowledge of the future and letting them decide whether, and they will be judged. Like, for example, I think that the Khidr, for killing that child, he's going to be judged, right? But it's in a very different scales and very different situation than how we would be judged, right? Like it's being judged according to the knowledge that he's been given. Maybe he was right to kill that child. Maybe he wasn't, but he's going to be judged according to that. But anyway, in the end, look. The point is that you can believe that Allah had the firstborns killed. Like I said, the stories of Bani Israel have Harun making the golden calf. Do we accept that? No, I don't accept that. If you want to say no, well, we will accept. No, there's obviously things in there.
I never accept
which are wrong. Well, there are things which are wrong, right?
Exactly. We have our mind.
Exactly. So there are things which are wrong. The final point I want to make clear from my perspective here is that this has nothing to do with like what the Ben Israel did here, and that this verse is clear in terms of what they were commanded. I will accept what Allah is saying that they were commanded to do here more than I would accept what is written in the the Jews and Christians will tell me about these details, right? When that verse that he pointed to earlier, which says the Prophet is being told to ask those before you, فَإِن كُنْتَ فِي شَكٍّ مِّمَّا أَنزَلْنَا إِلَيْكَ فَاسْأَلِ الَّذِينَ يَقْرَؤُونَ الْكِتَابَ مِن قَبْلِكَ, right? First of all, to be mentioned here is kitab, which is the prescriptions. It doesn't really mean just the stories, right? But it's about the totality of the stories, right? It's about the totality of not all of these details, right? They have details which are wrong. They have details which are corrupted. There are things which are not correct, right? As the Prophet is supposed to use this verse and go and ask them about the story of Harun and Musa, and then find out that they said that Harun created the golden calf, and then the Prophet's supposed to be in doubt. Is that going to make the Prophet doubt that what he's been received from Allah is not true because it doesn't match this detail that those before him had? Of course not, right? He's been asked to ask them just in general. That's why this is being brought at the end, right? The end of the full story. So that's how I see it. Anyway, bro, thanks for coming, but it's really late for him, and I need to get some shut eye for work next time.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. Anytime, and feel free, of course, to come back anytime you want. Yeah.
Regardless of any differences, I appreciate the work you do. I really appreciate the work you do. So just wanted to say that. And
of course. Jazakallah khair. Allah barak feek. Allah barak feek. Okay. Take care. Assalamu alaikum. All right. Let's end this here. Take care, everybody. Thank you. Wow, there's still 12 people with us. Well, thank you for tuning in, all of you, but I'm calling it a night now. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.